Thank you. Good morning and aloha, everyone. Thank you all for being here. Councilmember Kia Aina, can you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Also, Councilmember Kia Aina, would you please introduce your guest giving us the message of aloha?
Thank you, Chair. Today I have the honor of introducing Auntie Blanche McMillan, who will be delivering this morning's message of aloha. Auntie Blanche is the founder and CEO of Hui Mahiai Aina, a nonprofit organization dedicated to improving the quality of life for those in need and the houseless in the Waimanalo community. When the COVID-19 pandemic struck in 2020, many homeless individuals who were camping at Waimanalo Beach Park faced dire circumstances as the beaches became no-walk zones during the lockdown. In response, Auntie Blanche, with the support of the local community, took immediate action. She built homes and provided shelter to individuals and families in desperate need. Beyond providing housing, Hui Mahiai Aina's mission is to assist the houseless in becoming self-sufficient, employable, and independent through the collective management of their land and resources. Through her efforts, Hui Mahiai Aina has grown significantly and has now expanded to 50 homes. She is currently housing 75 individuals, including 26 children and 15 kupuna, the oldest being 91 years old. Auntie Blanche's selfless and tireless work have since gone beyond the Waimanalo community, and she is now assisting communities in Waianae and Maui. Auntie Blanche is truly remarkable. Her commitment and unwavering dedication for caring for others is deeply admirable. Please join me in welcoming Auntie Blanche McMillan.
Thank you. Mahalo. Before I start, I would like to have a silence for Twinkle Borges, that she is the same thing that I do. I'm blessed to know her and to love her and to care for her. May she rest in peace. Mahalo, mahalo. My name is Blanche McMillan. I am the CEO and the founder of Hui Mahiai Aina. I am blessed to be here. Thank you, Speaker, and all the rest of you councilmen, people. I'm so excited because every time I'm always on the stage and talking. Well, in doing this project that I'm doing today is Aloha. I have grown from aloha from my parents, and I'm blessed because of my parents. And I stand before you. The aloha comes from the heart and the love of God. God gave us the aloha to serve and to be there for the people of Hawaii. And this is where our aloha comes from. But I want to tell you a story about aloha. My grandson is a wide receiver for Arizona football player. He's the #1 wide receiver. He said, Grandma, when I'm in the mainland, I carry the aloha in my heart. Because why? I feel the love of Hawaii. And I will always carry that and teach the people of the mainland what aloha means. And then ever since then, I believed in what our people, what we carry in our heart. Aloha is a grateful thing, it's many things, but for me, because I have loved my people, my homeless people, I always tell them and I remind them. I will always love them and I will always be there for them. When you fall, I will always show you the love of aloha in my heart. And all of them always cry because they've never been loved in the entire life. You know, homeless is a very thing that people feel so hurt that they're not loved. But of course, Auntie Blanche will always be there for them. When I go to the park, I go to anywhere, I always tell people, you know how much I love you? Do you know what is aloha? Because God gave me the aloha in my heart. And I'm going to show you what is aloha. Aloha is a giving and loving purpose that we are here today. And you know, this is the giving thing that I always love. When I learned from my parents, they always remember this. You show aloha. You never look sad. You look happy. Make a smile on your face and show them what aloha is all about. You be there, even if they're grumpy and they're mad. And you know what? Put a smile on your face and tell them how much you love them. You know what? Let me tell you something. I always tell people that, how much I love them. And afterwards, they look at you, they turn around and with a big smile on their face. And you know they're in love. They're loved by all of us. It's not only me, but the love of all our people that we need to realize how important it is to be loved. And aloha. And this is my short program. Can I? I aloha each and every one of you folks. And I will always love you folks. And will always ask for your guidance and love and your protection. May God bless each and every one of you. Mahalo.
Thank you, Auntie Blanche. We met over 20 years ago when I used to represent Waimanalo in the State House. And Auntie Blanche has always treated me and everyone else with lots of love and aloha. So thank you, Auntie Blanche. Members, I have a few procedural announcements to make before we start. Pursuant to Section 92-3.7 of the Hawaii Revised Statutes, this meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting by interactive conference technology with the following procedures in effect for the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony on all items on the agenda, either in person in the council chamber or remotely. Before testifying, each person shall state their full name and the agenda item they are testifying on. Each speaker may not have anyone else read their statement and is limited to a 3-minute presentation on public hearing and new business items, and a 1-minute presentation on all other items. For registered in-person testifiers, when your name is called, please proceed to the podium and begin by stating your name and the item you'll be speaking on. When I call for anyone else who is not registered to speak in person, please line up to the right of the podium, and when it is your turn, proceed to the podium. Begin by stating your name and the item you'll be speaking on. For persons who have registered to testify remotely by video conference or phone, when your name is called, please monitor your screen and activate your audio feed when prompted. When I call for anyone else standing by remotely, please utilize the Zoom raise hand button to indicate your desire to speak. For those joining us by telephone only, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak. The following are some friendly reminders and tips. Video conference from a quiet location if possible. If you are also watching the proceeding on Olelo, please mute your television when you are called to testify. When the timer on your screen reaches 0, please conclude your remarks promptly. For those who are joining us by telephone only, I will identify you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. When your number is called, press *6 to unmute yourself when prompted. HRS Section 92-3.7 requires all votes at remote meetings to be conducted by a roll call unless unanimous. Therefore, I will first call for objections, and if there are any, I will call for a roll call vote. For those council members participating outside of the council chamber, in accordance with HRS Section 92-3.7, the meeting will automatically recess if we lose audio-visual contact with you and cannot reconvene until we reestablish contact. Therefore, please announce beforehand if you will be voluntarily signing out of the meeting. Written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number, will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. As a courtesy, please turn off all cell phones for the duration of the meeting. Members, for your information, Bill 37, relating to the overt video monitoring, published in the public hearing notice on Friday, July 26, in anticipation of committee action, is not included on today's agenda. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Mr. Clerk, roll call.
Councilmember Cordero?
Here.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Here.
Councilmember Kiaina?
Here.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Present.
Councilmember Say? Councilmember Talba joining us remotely?
Here.
Councilmember Tupola?
AO.
Councilmember Wire? Chair Waters.
Here.
Mr. Chair, 8 members are present, 1 member is absent.
Thank you. The following council members are present in the council chamber. Council members Tupola, Dos Santos Tam, Say, Kia'aina, Cordero, and Okimoto. The following council members participating remotely by video conference. Council member Tolba. Council member Tolba, in accordance with section 92-3.7, please identify each person who is with you at your location.
I'm alone.
Thank you. Also present in the council chambers are legislative branch staff, members of the city administration, media representatives, and a special duty police officer. Floor Leader Cordero, do we have any guests today?
Thank you, Chair. Along with the City Administration, I would like to welcome our neighbors from our communities as well as appointees to serve the City and County of Honolulu. Mahalo.
Thank you so much. Approval of minutes. Vice Chair Kia'aina, motion to approve the minutes.
I move that the minutes of the 23rd session be approved.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers? I've just been informed by our chief clerk that Olelo is down, so we'll have to take a brief recess until that reconvenes. Sorry, members and folks in the public. Brief recess. Thank you, members. Reconvening, Olelo is back on. It has been moved and seconded for the approval of minutes. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion on the approval of the minutes. Seeing none, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, the minutes have been approved. Moving to the top of page 4, order of the day. Appointments and resolutions from the Committee on Parks, Enterprise Services, and Culture and the Arts. Councilmember Tulba.
I move that CR-231 and Resolution 24-157 CD1 be amended as adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Tolba for the explanation.
Confirming the appointment of J. Pedro to serve on the Board of Parks and Rec of the City and County of Honolulu.
Thank you so much. Is J. Pedro here? Aloha, Mr. Pedro. Nice to see you. Would you like to say a few words?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, Council members. I am Jay Pedro. I am grateful for your confirmation to the Board of Parks and Recreation, and I look forward to serving. Mahalo, sir.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Mr. Pedro? Seeing none, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have Chun James with their hand raised.
Okay, please proceed.
Hey, aloha, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please proceed.
Great, great. I just wanted to start this meeting with a wonderful story. Years ago, when Steve Holmes was in the city council, there was a land that was on sale next to the Pounders Beach. And all I needed to do was to call him and say, hey, Steve, can you please help us save this piece of land right here? And he said, okay. And there was no lobbying, no petition, no nothing. He just understood that open space and parks were important for our local people. And so he just put the $800,000 into the city budget, and there it was. Today, we have an extra open space for our people out here in the Windward area. So I hope that this will be the mindset and culture that we continue to keep open space and continue to collect more open spaces for our people, and parks and recreations and others are so important to the happiness of our people. Thank you so much and congratulations.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, any other testifiers?
Mr. Chair, that concludes the testifiers.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Seeing none, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 232 and Resolution 24-172 have been adopted. Congratulations. Excuse me. Pardon me. CR 231 and Resolution 24-157 CD1 has been adopted. Congratulations, Mr. Pedro, and thank you for your willingness to serve. Councilmember Tolba.
I move that CR-232 and Resolution 24-172 be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Tolba for the explanation.
Confirming the appointment of Victoria M.H. Takamine to serve on the Commission of Culture and the Arts of the City and County of Honolulu.
Thank you so much. Is Ms. Takamine here? There she is. Aloha. Thank you for coming. Would you like to say a few words? If you push the button, the light will go on.
Then,
There you go.
aloha mai kako, o wau o hana kaulani o ka mamalu ki kumuhula o pua ali ilima a ki po o Pa'i Foundation. Mahalo nui loa for the honor of serving our city and county of Honolulu. I am honored and privileged to be able to serve as a commissioner for the Mayor's Office of Culture and Arts. Mahalo nui loa.
Thank you. Any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you again. Mr. Clerk, do we have any other testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Okay, members, we're in discussion. Councilmember Kia Aina.
As I mentioned earlier, I'm so excited about this nomination. I've had the privilege of working with Vicky, not just for a lot of Native Hawaiian causes, but also our brothers and sisters in the other Pacific Islands. So I'm looking forward to having her on board. And then if I had a magical wand, I wish she could simultaneously serve on the Oahu Historic Preservation Commission as well. And but I know I cannot do that and offer an amendment today. But I wish her well. Looking forward to seeing you on board.
Thank you.
Mahalo.
Any further discussion, members? Seeing none, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 232 and Resolution 24-172 have been adopted. Congratulations and thank you, Ms. Takamine.
Thank you so much, everybody. Mahalo.
Councilmember Tolba.
I move that CR-233 and Resolution 24-173 be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Tolba for the explanation.
Confirming the appointment of Elizabeth Soto to serve on the Commission of the Culture and the Arts for the City and County of Honolulu.
Thank you so much. Is Elizabeth Soto present? Aloha and welcome.
Aloha, mai kako. I want to thank you for the honor and privilege of serving on this committee for the culture and arts.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the nominee? Seeing none, thank you so much. Mr. Clerk, do we have any other testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Seeing none, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 233 and Resolution 24-173 has been adopted. Congratulations and thank you, Ms. Soto. Moving to the bottom of page 5, Councilmember Tolba.
I move that CR-234 and Resolution 24-174 be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Tolba for the explanation.
Confirming the appointment of Taylor Chang to serve on the Commission of the Culture and the Arts for the City and County of Honolulu.
Thank you so much. Is Taylor Chang here? Aloha, welcome.
Aloha, thank you for the honor to be able to serve on the commission.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the nominee? Seeing none, thank you. Is there any other testifiers, Mr. Clerk?
Mr. Chair, there are none.
Thank you, members. We're in discussion. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam, followed by Councilmember Say.
Thank you. And Taylor Pua, I'd like to thank you for your willingness to serve on this, and especially with your background in film and these other aspects of culture and the arts and your work with the Honolulu Museum of Art. I mean, I think that will really bring something special and new to the commission. So thank you for your willingness to serve.
Thank you. Councilmember Say.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to acknowledge the appointments of the first two appointees to the Commission on Culture and the Arts, and now Taylor. It reflects the woman power that we have in the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion, members? Seeing none, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 234 and Resolution 24-174 has been adopted. Congratulations and thank you, Ms. Chang. Turning to the top of page 6, Councilmember Tolba.
Move that CR-235 and Resolution 24-175 be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Tolba for the explanation.
Confirming the appointment of Joshua Tengen to serve on the Commission of the Culture and the Arts for the City and County of Honolulu.
Thank you. Is Joshua Tengen here? Aloha, welcome.
Aloha kako. Mahalo for your consideration to be a council or to be a member on this committee. So thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the nominee? Seeing none, thank you, sir. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Josh for his willingness to serve on here. I've known Josh for years through his many roles with the Honolulu Biennial, or Hawaii Biennial, now it's a triennial, his work on arts and culture, especially downtown and Chinatown. I'm just really happy to have him on this commission and, of course, have him as a constituent as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mahalo, Council.
Any further discussion, members? Seeing none, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 235 and Resolution 24-175 has been adopted. Congratulations, Mr. Tengan. From the Committee on Housing, Sustainability, and Health, Councilmember Wire.
I move that Committee Report 245, Resolution 24-169 be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Wire for the explanation.
Confirming the appointment of Dr. Kirsten Olsen to serve on the Climate Change Commission of the City and County of Honolulu.
Thank you. Is Dr. Kristen Olson present? Aloha, welcome.
Aloha, thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to serving on the commission and aiding the city and county in their climate change adaptation and mitigation plans.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the nominee? Seeing none. Excuse me, Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. Just wanted to say thank you for taking time to, talk story and appreciate all the expertise and background and excitement that you bring to the position. So thank you for your willingness to serve. Mahalo.
Thank you. Any further discussion, members? Seeing none, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 245 and Resolution 24-169 has been adopted. Congratulations, Dr. Olson, and thank you. Turning to the top of page 7 from the Committee on Planning and the Economy, Councilmember Kia Aina.
I move that Committee Report 248 and Resolution 24-170 be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Kia Aina for the explanation.
This resolution confirms the appointment of Jason Wu to serve on the Planning Commission of the City and County of Honolulu.
Thank you so much. Aloha, Mr. Wu. Thank you for joining us. Would you like to say a few words?
Hi, good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, Council members. I'm Jason Wu, and I want to thank the Council as well as the Mayor for this opportunity to serve on this commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the nominee members? Seeing none, thank you again. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Seeing none, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 248 and Resolution 24-170 has been adopted. Congratulations and thank you, Mr. Wu. From the Committee of Public Safety, Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. I move that CR 249 and Resolution 24-158 be adopted.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Okimoto for the explanation.
Confirming the reappointment of Mark Dexter to serve on the Citizens Advisory Commission on the Emergency Management of the City and County of Honolulu.
Thank you. Is Mr. Dexter here? Aloha, Mr. Dexter. Thank you for being here.
Morning, aloha, Chairman, Vice Chair, and Council members. Thank you, and I appreciate your support in serving on this commission. Look forward to providing as much help as I can be on this commission.
Thank you very much. Members, any questions for the nominee? Seeing none. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Seeing none, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 249 and Resolution 24-158 has been adopted. Congratulations and thank you, Mr. Dexter.
Thank you.
Moving to the top of page 8, Councilmember Okimoto.
I move that CR 250 and Resolution 24-159 be adopted.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Okimoto for the explanation.
Confirming the appointment of Gerard Gibson to serve on the Fire Commission of the City and County of Honolulu.
Thank you. Aloha, Mr. Gibson.
Aloha, council members. Wonderful to see you again. Thank you very much for the consideration.
Thank you. Any questions for the nominee members? Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Mr. Gibson.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Thank you.
Thank you for being here with us. I know that we had met, and I'm thankful for you to be here. Because you weren't able to come into the committee hearing for public safety, I had talked about having you come here and just answer a couple of questions. I hope that's okay.
Sure.
With your experience and your background in your career, but also serving on prior commissions, what do you, first of all, why would you want to be in this position as a commissioner right now for the Fire Commission? And what can you bring, or what is your goal to bring to the commission with your background?
Well, I just basically timed out of the Police Commission after 7 years. And so coming on to the Fire Commission I know what a challenge these commissions are, and a lot of it is about, there's a lot of emergencies, right? There's a lot of things that happen, and there's no playbooks for these things, right? We saw what just happened in Maui, recently another fire on Kauai, et cetera, but there is, things that we can do to prevent. And so I think that I want to be a part of that and want to help manage the commission in that way.
Had you had any previous experience with serving or being involved with connected to the Fire Commission at all?
Never. So it'll be a learning experience for me, to be totally honest with you. But being on commissions before and many boards, I understand what the duties are. And so I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions for the nominee members? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Gibson. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Seeing none, any objections or reservations? Noting no objections or reservations, CR 250 and Resolution 24-159 has been adopted. Congratulations and thank you again, Mr. Gibson. Turning to the top of page 9, Resolution 24-193, confirming the appointment of Edmund K.B. Hyun to serve on the Liquor Commission of the City and County of Honolulu. Mr. Hyun, good to see you. Thank you for being here today.
Good to see you, Chair. Aloha mai kako. Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, Council members. My name is Edmund. Most people call me Fred Hyun. I'm honored and privileged to serve on the Liquor Commission, and I'll entertain any questions as to why. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the nominee? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Seeing none, Resolution 24-193 has been referred to the Committee on Planning and the Economy. Turning to the bottom of page 9, Resolution 24-194, confirming the appointment of Dr. Leanne Kealoha Fox to serve on the Climate Change Commission of the City and County of Honolulu. Aloha, welcome.
Veilina mai me ke aloha kako, aloha kakahiaka, e na kamaaina, a me na kupaaina o Ahualua. Just thank you very much for allowing me to continue to be a servant leader to our community, and especially to this very pressing issue for the future generations of all of Hawaii and Oahu.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the nominee? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have Chun James remotely.
Okay, please proceed.
Aloha, I read her resume and I'm so proud of her for all the things that she has done, and I'm sure she will do. But I just wanted to drop a little hint for her that as she deliberates in the many different discussions, that I've always got a question as to why we are not addressing the fact that portions of the Honolulu Rail from the Middle Street to the Ala Moana Center is in the Honolulu sea level rise inundation zone. Why are we not considering that inconvenient truth? I believe that is the city's own data, and we should certainly recognize that and respect that. And so I hope that this question of mine will appear in the conversation somewhere. Why are we not considering the fact that portions of the Honolulu Rail from Middle Street to Ala Moana is in the Honolulu sea level rise inundation zone? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, any further testimony, Mr. Clerk?
Mr. Chair, that concludes the testifiers.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Seeing none, any... Councilmember Kiaina,
Yeah, sorry about that. Thank you, Chair. I strongly support Dr. Fox. I had the honor of working with her at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, and she has a really strong background in the sciences as well as health and climate change. And so, in addition to having Dr. Olson on board as well, I'm looking forward to their leadership. We had phenomenal commissioners, as you know, and I'm glad that the administration is continuing the trend. You guys are going to be solid, so look forward to working with you guys.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Resolution 24-194 has been referred to the Committee on Housing, Sustainability, and Health. Moving to the top of page 10, Resolution 24-195, confirming the appointment of Christina Bushnell to serve on the Oahu Historic Preservation Commission of the City and County of Honolulu. Is Ms. Bushnell present? Aloha, welcome.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and Council members. My name is Christina Bushnell. You can call me Tina, and I'm very grateful to be able to serve on the Oahu Historic Preservation Commission. I'm also grateful to be in this beautiful historic building. And that's it.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the nominee? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Councilmember Kiaina.
I just wanted to make some comments. Tina, thank you for agreeing to serve on this commission. This is a commission that I care deeply about. And, as strengthening the ties with the DLNR's State Historic Preservation Division, we have the opportunity to set the right course for historic preservation on Oahu. And so I'm looking forward to seeing you on board.
Thank you, Council Member.
Thank you. Any further discussion, members? Seeing none, Resolution 24-195 has been referred to the Committee on Planning and the Economy. Turning to the bottom of page 10, Resolution 24-196, confirming the appointment of Malia Humshield to serve on the Grants in Aid Advisory Commission of the City and County of Honolulu. Aloha, did I get your name correct?
Aloha mai kako, aloha. Malia Hamshield, but I go by that too. Aloha Chair, aloha Vice Chair, aloha Council members. O Malia Hamshield ko Oinoa, Kumuhula, small business owner from Kailua, Ko'olaupoko, Oahu. And mahalo for the opportunity to serve.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the nominee? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Councilmember Kiaina.
Thank you. Malia, thank you for agreeing to serve. The Grants and Aid Commission is critically important, and with your background, I also had the honor of working with her at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. But with her background in the hula world as a kumuhula, as well as working at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs and being a small businesswoman, I think that her background is going to be. It's good to have diversity on the Grants and Aid Commission because a lot of our nonprofit communities, it's critical. It's their lifeline, and I also did want to increase the number of wahine on the commission because, given your background, I just think when you're looking at a lot of the nonprofits that are struggling, I think you're going to have a good grounding on the types of organizations that truly need the work as opposed to those organizations who have other sources of funding. So look forward to having you on board.
Mahalo, Council Member.
Thank you. Any further discussion, members? Seeing none, Resolution 24-196 has been referred to the Committee on Budget. Moving to the top of page 11, first reading items. Vice Chair Kiaina.
I move that the first reading items listed on pages 11 to 16 pass first reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Vice Chair Kia Aina for the explanation.
Bill 40 relates to professional self-certification. It amends Ordinance 23-29 by adding solar, energy storage, and energy efficiency projects for multifamily dwellings and commercial buildings to the list of eligible projects for professional self-certification. Bill 41, relating to the public spay and neuter clinic for dogs and cats, which addresses the administration of the public spay and neuter clinic for dogs and cats. Bill 42, relating to real property taxation. Bill 43, relating to real property taxation by allowing certain taxpayers to remit real property taxes through additional installment payments. Bill 44, relating to traffic safety by promoting public safety on roadways in the city and county of Honolulu by establishing more appropriate speed limits on certain streets. Bill 45 relates to real property taxation, addressing the real property tax credit. Bill 46, relating to real property taxation, addressing the taxation of vacant residential properties in the city and county of Honolulu. Bill 47 relates to real property taxation. Bill 48 relates to real property taxation, addressing Oahu's housing crisis and high cost of rental housing, and providing a mechanism to support our local residents through reducing taxation of real property used as long-term residential rentals. Bill 49, relating to real property taxation, providing property tax relief for certain homeowners. Bill 50, relating to parades, street festivals, and other activities. It amends the existing ordinances governing parades, street festivals, and other activities, including those in Waikiki, to reduce the strain on residents, visitors, employees, first responders, and businesses caused by the closure of main public thoroughfares, ensures that parades, street festivals, and other activities serve a public purpose, protects the health and safety of the public, and establishes requirements specific to street festivals for the foregoing purposes.
Thank you very much. Starting with Bill 40, I believe we have two registered testifiers, Rocky Mould and Sandy Wong. Is Rocky Mould available?
Yes, I am.
Aloha.
Thank you, Chair Waters. Aloha. I'm Rocky Mould. I'm the Executive Director of the Hawaii Solar Energy Association. We represent the majority of solar energy storage companies in Hawaii. That includes installers and equipment manufacturers and technology providers. Really on Oahu, our strength is our distributed solar and energy storage. Our industry has installed 70,000 systems on Oahu alone, over 100,000 systems throughout the entire state. We've been working really diligently with the administration to improve permitting for solar, and we've worked very hard for the smaller scale residential segment of solar. Right now, energy storage with solar is a powerful combination to bring reliability to our grid. This bill is opening things up and helping the commercial and multifamily sector, which is a huge opportunity that we need to fix. So we're in strong support of this bill. Thank you for hearing it, and we look forward. I'm here for questions if you have any. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Mr. Mould? Seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Mould. Next, we have Sandy Wong.
Yes, good morning, Chair. I will stand on my written testimony, and I would concur and echo what Mr. Mould has said. I am available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Sandy Wong? Seeing none. That's all I have for registered testifiers. Is there anybody else in the audience or remotely, Mr. Clerk, who'd like to testify on Bill 40?
Mr. Chair, that concludes the testifiers.
Thank you. Moving then to Bill 41. Any testifiers, Mr. Clerk?
Mr. Chair, we have none for Bill 41.
Thank you. Bill 42. Anybody wish?
Chair, we have one person logged on with their hand raised.
Okay, please proceed. Bill 42 on page 12.
Hey, aloha, can you hear me?
Yes.
Chair Waters? Yeah, I just wanted to quickly say that this may be helpful, but whether it's installments or in one full payment or two full payment, the property tax amount is still the same. And I know that you're probably tired of me talking about property taxes, but I still believe that we need to put a property tax cap on our kupuna who have been in their homes for more than 20 years. Otherwise, we will be pricing them out of house and home. And I don't think that that is what we want to do. We can be talking about affordable housing all we want on one end, but if we are not going to do anything about the escalating property tax that will price out our Kama'aina families, that's not a good thing. So thank you.
Thank you. Any further testimony, Mr. Clerk, on Bill 42?
Mr. Chair, that concludes the testifiers.
Thank you. Bill 43, any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Bill 44, I believe Don Sakamoto has registered to testify. Is Mr. Sakamoto available?
Hello, Chair Waters. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Don. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you for letting me allowed to testify in this important bill. As a Kaneohe resident and on the Kaneohe Neighbor Board, I'm speaking as a resident of Kaneohe. I have concerns about speeding on ALOHA Street near He'ia School, Kauhipa Street. We have children that walk there, Kapuna, some disabled people too. So I really believe that we need to reduce the speed. I expressed this to Councilmember Kayana in our district via email and at neighborhood board. But I heard something on the mayor Rick Amata this morning was asked about Bill 44. There was some kind of pushback by him on this bill. So I hope the administration will support this Bill 44. We really need it. Thank you for taking my testimony.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Sakamoto, members? Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you. Hi, Mr. Sakamoto. I was just wondering if, since you heard that commentary on the Rick Hamada show, that you will be contacting the mayor with your comments?
I will. I will also be contacting my good friend, also Mike Farby, managing director. I know him personally from when he was the DTS director and now managing director. Very good relationship with him and with the mayor too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm glad you'll be taking that up. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further questions for Mr. Sakamoto? Seeing none. Any further testimony on Bill 44, Mr. Clerk?
Mr. Chair, that concludes the testifiers for Bill 44.
Thank you. Moving on to Bill 45. I'm sorry. Oh, you had a testimony? Oh, ALOHA, HPD, Bill 44. Please proceed.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Sorry, I wasn't formally on the list, but I'd just like to thank Councilmember Kiaina for proposing this bill. HPD supports any measures that'll make Oahu's roadways safer, and I think it's a one step in the right direction to assisting all vulnerable users of the road to be safe. And I'll be available for any questions.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you for being here. Okay, moving to Bill 45. I believe I have 5 registered testifiers, starting with Keith Webster. Is Keith Webster available?
Mr. Chair, I believe that's for 46.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's correct. Bill 45. Any testifiers for Bill 45?
Mr. Chair, we have none for Bill 45.
Okay, thank you. Moving to the top of page 14, Bill 46. On Bill 46, I believe we have 5 registered testifiers, starting with Keith Webster.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Webster's not logged on.
Okay. Next, I have Calvin Pham.
Mr. Chair, we're trying to get him on.
Aloha. Aloha. Fu Pham here, Calvin Pham, speaking in support of Bill 46. I was also a member of the Oahu Real Property Tax Advisory Commission, which recommended the empty homes tax as a supplemental tax And the reason for that is that we believe that it's a simpler mechanism for accomplishing the goals of an empty homes tax. And the merits behind such an idea include just making sure that there's like a stop on the market for housing. So if you think about it, it's in my written testimony with a bathtub. What we're trying to accomplish here is we're trying to plug the drain, the loss of housing for locals through the drain. What Bill 46 does, what an empty homes tax does, is it plugs that bathtub so that any new housing that enters the market can be retained within the market and be available for locals. Thank you. Mahalo.
Thank you. Any questions for the testifier? Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you. Hi, Mr. Pham. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for being a participant in the last ORPTAC, Oahu Real Property Tax Advisory Commission. As for the contents of the bill, do you agree with the implementation of the legislation, the proposed legislation?
Yes.
Okay, the implementation part is out, yes? Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Pham? Seeing none, thank you. Next, we have Ellen Godby Carson. Aloha and welcome.
Thank you, Council Chair Waters and Council Member Cordero for introducing Bill 46, an empty homes tax. Every home on Oahu that is an empty home is one that is hurting Oahu because it means there's a family somewhere that has no place to live and needs to either move or become homeless. We know there's no simple solution for our housing crisis, but there are some effective tools that will help, and an empty homes tax can do that by the first time prioritizing Oahu's housing for Oahu's residents. Bill 46 is modeled after Vancouver's empty homes tax. It's the best in the world. It's achieved over 50% conversion of their empty homes into homes for local Vancouver residents, while raising over $100 million that is going, as we speak, to affordable housing projects that are newly built for Vancouver's residents. I've been following with Vancouver's officials for the past 5 years as they've been going through their implementation, and it's quite remarkable. And our bill, because it's modeled after theirs, can have all the advantages of the learning that they've had. But basically, they're doing 10,000 audits a year, from which the initial non-compliance rate was 7.5%. It's now less than 1%. And they have a conversion that is assisting their members while producing amount of revenues that vastly exceeds approximately $2 million that they spend annually to help implement that program. We think Oahu needs bold action to help us achieve similar results, and Bill 46 is that. So we thank you for your consideration of this bill and urge your support. I do stand ready if there's any questions.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you. Next, we have Ross Isokane.
Mr. Chair, the testifier is not logged on.
Thank you. Oh, in person. Aloha, welcome.
Hello, Council. My name is Ross Isokane, and I am in support of the empty homes tax. I'm currently a resident of downtown. I was born and raised on this island, moved to the mainland for college and to start my career. And that was a great experience, but Hawaii is my home. So I was really lucky to have an opportunity to move back. But you know, after over 5 years, I still don't own my own home. And I've definitely tried. It's just, when you're looking and you realize all cash bids are coming from investors all over the world, sight unseen often, way above listing price, it just doesn't make sense to me to even try. So I also just get really frustrated, and when I realize that these residential units are left vacant or used as short-term vacation rentals, I just wonder how that makes sense to all of us. But an empty homes tax, I believe, like utilized in many cities, could help discourage that behavior. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the testifier? Seeing none. Next, we have Rebecca Soon.
Mr. Chair, the testifiers are not logged on.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Clerk, for registered testifiers. Is there anybody else who'd like to testify on Bill 46?
Mr. Chair, we have Rocky Mold logged on with the hand raised.
Okay, aloha, Mr. Mold, please.
Aloha, Chair Waters, council members. Having been on the Oahu Real Property Tax Advisory Commission a couple of years ago that recommended an empty homes tax, I am in strong support. And this is in my personal capacity. I'm not speaking for the Hawaii Solar Energy Association right now. But I worked on this proposal with the Oahu Real Property Tax Advisory Commission. This is an idea whose time has come. We have an affordability crisis, and this is a really innovative, low, sort of intrusive approach to raise revenue to help build affordable housing, but also get more homes on the market to lower prices. So testifying in strong support, and I look forward to, if this does move forward, I look forward to answering questions and participating in the discussion going forward. And just want to congratulate the folks that have worked so diligently and so hard to get this bill where it is now today. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Mr. Mold? Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you. Hi, Rocky. Thank you very much for your serving on the ORPTAC too. Do you have any recommendations for the bill moving forward?
So I think what I will note is that there have been significant improvements. A lot of the challenge we had getting the bill through last time was concern about implementation from the Real Property Assessment Division. Back then, a couple of years ago, we thought we'd address those with a very simple implementation approach. We still have that very simple implementation approach and think it's very possible. But the additions really to the bill, like the gradual increase in the rate and the ability to get exemptions and stuff, that's really improved it. And so we think it's now ready for prime time more than it was a couple of years ago.
Thank you. And I, of course, agree. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions for the testifier? Seeing none. Mr. Clerk, I believe Solutions Pacific has logged on, and that is Rebecca Soon.
Aloha nui, Council Chair Waters and council members, mahalo nui. Just wanted to really flag appreciation for forwarding this bill. I know this has been an initiative of this council for a number of years. As Rocky just testified to, I know that the implementation measures have been some of the barriers in moving forward to date. I think that this particular Bill 46 addresses a number of those key areas, especially as it relates to various equity measures that perhaps in previous iterations really scooped up more folks than were anticipated in this measure. I think that this council knows better than most the really critical need for housing, and that this is just one tool in the bento box of solutions to try to move forward housing for our local families. So just want to mahalo this council for pushing it forward. Aloha.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the testifier? Seeing none. Mr. Clerk, do we have any other testifiers on Bill 46?
Mr. Chair, that concludes the testifiers.
Okay. Moving on to Bill 47. Any testifiers on Bill 47?
Yes, we have Ms. Raquel Achu standing by.
Okay, please proceed.
Aloha, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you. Good morning, Council Chair and Council members. Obviously, I'm in strong support of Bill 47. Long overdue, and I just feel that I've had this conversation many times through the years. It's been an interest of mine. I've had conversations also with Director Koano and Councilmember Wire and various parties that have this interest. And I believe it's time. This is important for our kupuna. If anyone needs to be focused on and taken care of for a change, it would be our kupuna, and give them their ability to, really retain what they've worked so hard for in the past and be able to pass it on to their children and their descendants as they see fit, without the stresses of the ongoing increases that our property taxes have done. I've sat through the appeal process with Kupuna, which was hugely discouraging. So if we can find a way in this bill to make it more accommodating and easy for our kupuna, I believe that's where our focus should be on this property tax. Thank you so much. I look forward to this process.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Ms. Achiu? Seeing none. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have any other testifiers on Bill 47?
Yes, we also have Ms. Chun James standing by.
Okay, please proceed.
Hey, Aloha. Thank you so much. I know that you all have been working really hard on all these various property taxes, and it's so important that we, raise this issue as to, how affordable is affordable and affordable for who. And so all these bills indicating that we really need to hone down and focus on our residents. And I certainly appreciate the fact, again, that we need to protect our local residents who have been here for the longest time, and they really are the glue. Our Kama'aina family, our kupuna, they are the glue that hold our communities together. And so thank you again for all your hard work and that we're able to talk about this and thrash things out and find the best solutions to put our residents first. Mahalo.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, any other testifiers?
Mr. Chair, that concludes the testifiers for this measure.
Okay, moving to page 15, Bill 48. I believe Chun James also registered to testify on Bill 48.
Yeah, this is also one of the conversations that we have been having, and that it's important that legislators understand that landlords who are providing long-term rentals to our local residents are providing a housing service, because not every tenant wishes to take on the responsibility or obligations of a property owner, or are they, ready to do that. So it's important that we incentivize them and we continue to provide affordable rentals to our local residents. And also, I just wanted to, I put on the written testimony that we might want to look at the rollback, because if a seller has, if an owner decides to sell or a new buyer is an occupant, we ought not to punish them with any rollback problems. So yes, thank you so much again, that we should do everything we can not to price out our local renters as well. So thank you very much for helping and addressing all these issues.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, any other testifiers on Bill 48?
Mr. Chair, that concludes the testifiers for that measure.
Thank you. Moving to the bottom of page 15, Bill 49. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Moving to page 16, Bill 50. I believe we have 3 registered testifiers, starting with Ross Isokane. Aloha, Mr. Isokane. Please proceed.
Hello again, Council. My name is Ross Isokane. I'm here as an individual, but just to let you know, I'm also a member of the Downtown Chinatown Neighborhood Board. But speaking for myself, I am strongly supportive of community events, mainly due to the foot traffic they bring into our neighborhood. Just to share my story, walking around downtown Chinatown after hours on the weekend, it can be a little scary. The threat of violent crime is very real, so I'm constantly looking over my shoulder, tensing up when I feel a stranger walking past me on an empty street. But, during these street festivals, when there's all this foot traffic and positive communal energy, I feel so much safer. And I also realized that they provide a huge economic boost to the small businesses in our neighborhood. These small businesses have been suffering so much, especially with the recent power outages in downtown. So I just ask, I understand that there are different neighborhoods, but when we're looking at this bill, just think that some neighborhoods actually want to encourage these community events.
Thank you. Is it possible that if we limit the amount of street festivals in Waikiki, they might be urged to go to downtown?
So that's a great question, and I understand Waikiki has been very frustrated with the volume of events, and we'd encourage that to have them look at downtown Chinatown because, yeah, we want the energy. Our streets are empty on weekends and after hours, so great question, yes.
Thank you. Any follow-up questions, members? Seeing none, thank you. Next, we have Rick Agid, followed by Helene Schenkes.
Oh, okay, there. I'm a little technology challenged. Hello, members of the council. I want to, first of all, thank our council chair and our council member, Tommy Waters. We've been working on this bill for, gosh, about 5 months, 6 months, 7 months now. And so he introduced this at our request. I understand there's a lot of other things in the bill that don't pertain to Waikiki, but for Waikiki, the street festivals have become very disruptive. We had over 15 last year, 2023, and I believe there's like 10 already so far in 2024. These street festivals, unlike other street closures, close Kalakaua Avenue from 2 o'clock in the afternoon to between 11 and 12 at night before it ends up reopened. The event has to stop at 10, but they have to get everything off of the street is what delays the reopening. And this creates tremendous disruption for our businesses in Waikiki, our residents in Waikiki, our visitors who trying to get to and from their hotel rooms. So we really believe that there needs to be a limit on the number of street festivals. Until this bill, they're just another street closure. So this bill really helps to bring the law into the right frame of mind in terms of being able to manage these events in Waikiki. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Mr. Agid? Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you so much. Aloha, thank you for being here.
Aloha.
You know, I had a good meeting with the Waikiki Business Association because, interestingly, you know, with the Waikiki Improvement District, you guys were able to kind of get some funds to take care of the things you need to. Am I correct in reading this bill that it would implement that for these events as well, that there would be a portion that goes towards a fund that would help to take care of the area?
Correct. That's one of the interesting things that I think our chair added to the bill, and
that's pretty key.
I think it is really a positive event for the bill. Yes, no question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any follow-up questions, members, for Rick Agid? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Helene Schenkes, followed by, I believe we also have Trevor Abarza and Bob Finley.
Aloha, Chair Waters and members of the council. I submitted written testimony, and I'd just like to, at a high level, Royal Hawaiian Center, we're on 3 blocks of Kalakaua, and the number of street festivals that have occurred have significantly impacted our business. We have 4,000 people who are residents, and they work in our shops and restaurants. And we have residents who shop. We validate over 17,000 parking tickets a month for people who drive in that shop or eat or what have you. An example I call out in my written testimony is the absolute nightmare of Mother's Day Saturday night. May the 11th. It was a street festival. Kalakaua was shut down. Mother's Day is the biggest single restaurant day of the year. For those of you that have mothers or aunties or wives, you know that Mother's Day is an important family dinner. Well, just at Royal Hawaiian Center, we had between 35 and 40% of our dinner business totally disrupted because people couldn't get in. And it was just really bad. And again, I've got it all nicely said in my written testimony. The other point I want to make, tourism is still a challenge. We're still coming out from the effects of COVID. The currency valuations for our visitors has dramatically impacted all of our international customers. So we need all the help we can get. So we are strongly in support of Bill 50. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you again.
Mahalo.
Trevor Arbarzwa.
Thank you, Chair and members of the council. My name is Trevor Abarzu. I'm the president and executive director of the Waikiki Business Improvement District. We're better known as the ALOHA ambassadors that do all the clean and safe work in Waikiki and provide supplemental services in Waikiki. And I just wanted to provide comments, and just from the logistical standpoint of what we have to deal with when these street festivals come in. You know, we have probably double the amount of trash, double the amount of people in the district, so we have to bring on ambassadors on overtime, and it costs our organization quite a significant amount of money in overtime. And when these festivals, you know, we have dozens every year, and also they're increasing. We don't get any extra funding from our ratepayers, from anyone from the city to deal with these festivals. So we have to take it out of our pot, and then it takes away from the normal mission. So in terms of the logistical side of this, you know, council, that, you know, this is hurting Waikiki. I know that everyone has mentioned the hurt on business, but just from, you know, Department of Facilities and Maintenance, HPD, Parks and Rec, and the Waikiki Business Improvement District, these festivals are becoming a burden on the community. So thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you. Bob Finley.
Aloha, Chair Waters and members. I presented written testimony in favor of Bill 50. My name is Robert Finley, and this is my individual testimony on Bill 50. I'm a longtime resident in Waikiki, with the post-pandemic recovery we're seeing right now, and in the visitor and local event market, I believe the number of street closures are impacting the quality of life in Waikiki. I'll be brief. As a driver, I appreciate the city modifying the traffic flow on Kohio Avenue during events on Kalakaua. But much as the modification helps drivers, sometimes it does, it heavily impacts pedestrian traffic. Pedestrians, including our ADA folks, have a long wait just across the street, and several people jaywalk, which is very dangerous. They could get killed in an instant out there. So in any case, I'll be brief. I support Bill 50 and its limit on non-legacy street events that close Kalakaua from 2 p.m. to midnight. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Mr. Finley?
Thank you.
Seeing none, thank you, sir. Is there anybody else who'd like to testify? Please make your way up to the podium. Aloha. Mr. Welch, please proceed.
Aloha, Chair Waters and council members. First of all, thanks for the hard work that you do every day for our community. It makes a difference, and we realize you have a lot of pressure. I am Winston Welch. I am Chair of Neighborhood Board 5, which is Diamond Head, Kapahulu, St. Louis Heights, but I'm speaking in my personal capacity, informed by many years on the neighborhood board. And I just wanted to say for this bill about the Waikiki parades that we are that I'm broadly in favor of it, and I think most residents would be too. I have been caught in, I always used to think Waikiki traffic used to flow, but when you hit one of these parades in the middle of a day, boy, I just think about what if someone has a heart attack? Or how would you even get out of here? It took me half an hour just to go one block because traffic was gridlocked. And everybody that lives down there knows that. But there's just a couple comments I wanted to make, which is the language itself is a bit confusing for me. I found that, is it a legacy? Is it a First Amendment? Is it an expressive? Is it so it might behoove us to clarify the language. What are the exact First Amendment parades that exist right now that have taken place over the last 15 years. That also is a little troubling, because what if, like the Okinawa Festival had to cancel for 1 year? Would it then lose its ability to have a parade? So some clarification there, and then some clarification on these festivals as two very separate things. That would be one thing. The other thing that I would encourage is, I understand our friends at Waikiki Business Improvement Association and the good work that they do and the extra burdens they have. The residents also are affected by this. It would be nice if you're going to set up a pot of money that maybe there's different groups that could apply for that, like the Waikiki Health Center or IHS or something that actually helps the community in different ways that are impacted that you can't directly connect to this. So just a thought if you're going to be taking monies out of this. So, and it sounds like you've got willing participants in Chinatown or Kaka'ako to move these festivals somewhere else as well. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Welch? See none. Thank you. Tim Gary.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Thanks, Chair, for introducing this and getting the conversation going. This bill is not strict enough. There's so many things that I'd like to amend to it, and I hope in the future we can have a discussion. Way too many parades, way too many festivals. The people that work in Waikiki are affected tremendously. People having medical emergencies affected. Tourists coming to and from their hotels, trying to get to the airport, many miss their flights. We can spread this around the island. We can have a parade right in front of the hall here. We have a Christmas parade. Let's have a few more down here. I'm not against people having fun and everything, but there's like 40 weekends a year where the traffic is affected. And then Kuhio is the only way out sometimes, unless you go up to the ALOHA and go up Macaulay. But just one point. One Saturday, a parade. On Kuhio, they decided to do the maintenance on the median. So Kuhio went down to one lane. It took me 35 minutes to go 4 blocks because some guy is trimming the lawn on Kuhio when Kawakawa is closed. So one of the suggestions I brought up with Dita Holyfield from Enterprise was she's going to develop a calendar of events down there. A couple weeks ago, we had a concert at the Shell. We had movie in the park. Just that little strip in front of the Shell going up to Montserrat, 30 minutes. Both lanes were completely gridlocked. If somebody had a medical emergency, there would be no way for a police officer or an ambulance to even get to them. They would have had to drive through the park. Like I said, there's just way too much stuff down there. Possible site, Aloha Stadium. They got parking, they can have festivals there. We're not doing anything there other than the swap meet. They run Christmas things out there. So I appreciate this, but I think it needs to go further. There's way too many parades down there. If you have a parade every weekend, it doesn't become special then. Parades should be for special things, not for every weekend. I appreciate you bringing this forward, Tommy. Have a great day.
Thank you, Tim. Any questions for Tim Gary? Seeing none. Mr. Clerk, do we have any other testifiers on Bill 50?
Mr. Chair, I have one person logged on.
Okay, is that Angela Melody Young?
Yes, sir.
Please proceed.
Aloha. There. Although if the noise is causing chaos, you should implement something in downtown, right, during this conversation to statutory limits for these events. Downtown has Hawaii Theater and the Little Park. You should try to make something happen there. They have the Chamber of Commerce, which will be organizing its annual cleanup soon. And then they also have Piano at the Park, which is in partnership with Hawaii Tourism. That's been revitalizing music and arts in downtown. So well-managed events offer a host of economic and social benefits to communities. The events in Waikiki attract visitors from around the world to stimulate growth of tourism and other businesses. And while the social benefits are less visible, but they are just as important, such as fostering community relationships and teaching people new things. It's so important to have those parades and events. It makes Hawaii the iconic tourist destination it's known for across the world.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, any other testifiers on Bill 50?
Mr. Chair, that concludes the testifiers.
Okay, thank you, members. We are in discussion on all measures. Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you. I have a question for if Mr. Pham is still on the online.
Mr. Pham? Mr. Clerk, is Mr. Pham still available?
Hi, Mr. Pham. Thank you very much. I recognize I asked Mr. Mold a question and that I should be equal here and ask you if, first off, what other city jurisdictions did you all look at to make the recommendation for for Bill 46?
Thank you. So the Property Tax Advisory Commission looked primarily at Vancouver. We looked at everything that was listed in the UCLA study, but Vancouver provided some of the best modeling for us to see what could be accomplished in terms of the enforcement down to the affidavit. So the affidavit so that anyone can declare that their property is not a vacant property. That form was a big influence in the list of the exemptions to the tax. So Vancouver was a major influence.
Thank you. And one last question, Mr. Pham, that I asked Mr. Mold is, do you have any recommendation moving forward for the bill?
Just keep it moving and get it passed. I think that there have been other iterations preceding this that have unearthed a few concerns, but for the most part, there's been a lot of thinking over the years between the mayor's study through UCLA and the work of the advisory commission, as well as a few bills along the way. So I think we've had lots of thinking, and as Chair Mold said earlier, this idea, the time has come for it.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you so much, Chair. I have a couple comments on some bills, so I'll take breaks if you want to go back to other people. But first off, for Bill 40, always in support of the solar industry and what they do, especially as we move towards clean energy goals, we really have to make it easier. This is why in a previous bill that I was able to pass that we put in some of the permitting exemptions for those who are just like-for-like replacement, because we don't want backlogs of solar. However, I did recommend to the administration that one of the apps that the federal government put out, Solar App Plus, paid for. They update all of the codes, whether it's federally or state, so that you can immediately generate permits for these. And unfortunately, they didn't get it going, but there was a little switch in DPP, right? We lost a deputy director, and he was the one convening the working group. So is there anyone here from DPP to answer questions, or? I don't think so.
I see the director.
Oh, there's.
Aloha, Donna Puna, DPP.
Hi, Director.
Hello.
So my question was, former deputy was convening the working groups, and were there any notes or outcomes of that so that we can kind of know the direction of where it's going, and how did we come up with the self-certification as the best path forward?
So, well, Do you mean as far as this current bill that's before the council?
Yeah, because that was about a year that a lot of the solar industry guys had been convening and, basically giving their insight on how we could improve the permitting process, of which, as you know, I was suggesting a different path. But how did those discussions turn out, and are there any notes or outcomes that we can read that came out from that working group?
I'd have to go back and look. That was under the previous deputy director. Yeah.
If you do have anything, because I was wondering how we came out with this conclusion for this bill as opposed to other paths that, may have been overall helpful, but do you see this self-certification as the best path forward for your department as far as the expedition of solar permits?
I think it's an option among all the different improvements we are making to help solar and all the other different types of permits. I think originally with Bill 6, the original self-certification bill, it was meant to be just general self-certification across the board, but I know that Bill 6 is kind of limited it to certain projects. But yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely worth exploring whether self-certification for these types of solar projects could be an option, a viable option.
Since the passage of Bill 6, how have you seen the current self-certification improve the process? How many are you, pulling through that self-certification pipeline in a month or in a year?
Well, actually, we have completed the administrative rules process for it, so we needed to get that done, and then now we need to set up training and other parts of that program before we actually execute. So we haven't taken in any self-certification yet under Bill 6.
And would those admin rules pertain to this one as well, and this would be able to kind of fall under that as the work you've already done?
Yes, basically. We're just adding another type of project, and it would fall under those rules.
I see. Okay. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
Dos Santos Town.
Thank you. And Director, before you run away, I do want to echo the comments of Councilmember Supolo with regard to the Solar App Plus, but one issue that's come up with the solar industry and perhaps can be addressed either through Bill 40 or through some other thing is the materials and methods issue, which I guess the solar installers, now that they're using a lot of different parts from various manufacturers, are running into this problem where they have to come up with a materials and methods number and has to get approval for each type of product that's interconnected. Are there any plans to resolve this issue so that this isn't a pinch point in the process?
So we're actively working on this internally, and we are meeting with the solar industry to trying to figure out what the best path forward is. We just want to ensure that we receive pertinent information in order for us to properly review and inspect and be able to move towards final approval. So it's definitely a work in progress, but we're actively looking very closely at the methods and means process. Mm-hmm.
Any follow-up questions for Director Apuna? Seeing none, thank you. Councilmember Tupola, did you have any other comments on any of the other bills on pages 11 through 16?
Yes.
Okay,
can I please
proceed.
speak on Bill 41?
Yes.
So I just wanted, and I think, I don't know where she went. Anyways, the Humane Society was here, but I thank her for being here. Animal outreach programs are vital to the health and well-being of our pets and communities, and especially in the homeless outreach that I do. When you care for an animal, you care for that individual as well. These organizations, such as Humane Society, face significant hurdles, and this particular bill has to do with the Neuter Now program. The reimbursement rates from the city for spay and neuter procedures is way below what it actually costs. And the existing city contract, which dictates the funding animal outreach providers receive, it fails to keep pace with the rising costs of these essential services. So consequently, these organizations have to shoulder this burden on their own with their own funding or raise funds to do it. So for those who are listening and who are interested in this, we are not taking away the Neuter Now program. I am suggesting that we actually put it into admin rules so that as prices change, we don't have to constantly retouch the law on how much the city will be reimbursing for each of the services, whether male or female cats, dogs. It actually has specific amounts that we are allowed to do it. I think by doing this, the administrative rules will give the flexibility to the director, and it'll also help for those nonprofit organizations to give feedback to the department so that we can get ourselves in a better place where we're really helping to address the issues that we have in our communities amongst the animal population. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other bills on pages 11 through, again, 16 from Councilmember Tupola?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion, members? Seeing none? Okay. Any objections or reservations? Noting that if there are no objections, we can take them all at one time. If there are any objections, then we'll do a roll call on that measure. So any objections or reservations on any of the measures, members? Seeing none? Noting no objections or reservations, the first reading items on pages 11 through 16 of the agenda have passed first reading. Thank you, members. We're now turning to page 17. Page 17. From the Committee on Zoning, Councilmember Say.
Mr. Chair, I move that committee report number 226 be adopted and Bill 39 pass second reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Say for the explanation.
It's relating to the building permits, and we are removing the affidavit requirements.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Okay, members, we're in discussion. Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to speak in support. You know, our permitting process often gets critiqued, and I see our director there, and she's put in a lot of hard work, and especially with a new updated software system that's going to be able to catch any violations or fines that certain property owners have. Initially, that's why the affidavit requirement was put on, is that we didn't want people to get additional permits when they already had issues with the department, fines, violations, and then continue to build in areas where they weren't supposed to. So I do support this wholeheartedly because I do think that many people have been hung up on this process who actually are following the rules, but it's making it more laborious and longer for them to get a permit. So anything we can do to take that out, I think we should all be in support of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion, members? Seeing none, roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Councilmember Cordero. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Aye.
Councilmember Kia Aina.
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto.
Aye.
Councilmember Say. Aye. Councilmember Talba remotely.
Aye.
Councilmember Tupola.
Aye.
Councilmember Wire.
Aye.
Chair Waters.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 8 ayes, 1 member is absent.
Thank you. CR 226 has been adopted and Bill 39 has passed second reading. From the Committee on Planning and the Economy, Councilmember Kia Aina.
I move that Committee Report 247 be adopted and Bill 36 pass second reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Kia Aina for the explanation.
This bill authorizes the issuance and sale of specifying certain terms of wastewater system revenue, commercial paper, of the City and County of Honolulu in an aggregate outstanding principal amount not to exceed $400 million, outstanding at any one time, for the purpose of refunding all or part of any outstanding wastewater system revenue indebtedness of the City and County, or paying the cost of any equipment or other improvement authorized pursuant to any capital budget ordinance relating to the wastewater system of the City and County, authorizing the Director of Budget and Fiscal Services to determine certain terms of such commercial paper, providing for the retirement of any indebtedness to be refunded, and providing for other activities relating to the issuance, sale, and delivery of such commercial paper.
Thank you very much. Mr. Clerk, do we have any?
Cordero.
Excused.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Excused.
Councilmember Kia Aina.
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto.
Aye.
Councilmember Say. Aye. Councilmember Talba remotely.
Aye.
Councilmember Tupola.
Aye.
Councilmember Wire.
Aye.
Chair Waters.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 7 ayes, 2 members are absent.
Thank you. CR 247 has been adopted and Bill 36 has passed second reading. Moving to the top of page 18, third reading items. From the Committee on Budget, Councilmember Cordero, who's not present. Moving down to the bottom of page 18, from the Committee on Housing, Sustainability, and Health, Councilmember Wire.
Move that Committee Report 244 be adopted and Bill 26 at D1 pass third reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Wire for the explanation.
Relating to honor our kupuna month.
Okay. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Okay. Members, we're in discussion. Seeing none, roll call,
Chair.
Mr. Clerk. Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to quickly, again, mahalo the members of the council and those who did show support for this. We're grateful to always recognize our kupuna and, again, bridge the gap between where the generations moving forward are going, but also connecting them to those who have come before us, and really connecting not just the culture that makes our island and our state so unique, but remembering those who have paved the way for us to be here. So this is a really, I know it's not a large measure, but something that we can do to recognize our kupuna here in our island. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion, members? Seeing none, roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Councilmember Cordero? Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Aye.
Councilmember Kia Aina?
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Aye.
Councilmember Say? Councilmember Talba?
Aye.
Councilmember Tupola?
Aye.
Councilmember Wire?
Aye.
Going back to Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Chair Waters?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 9 ayes.
Thank you. CR 244 has been adopted and Bill 26, FD1, has passed third reading. Back to the top of page 18 from the Committee on Budget, Councilmember Cordero.
I move that Committee Report 216 be adopted and Bill 25 pass third reading.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Cordero for the explanation.
This bill relates to license fees, which repeals an outdated ordinance related to license fees.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, do we have any testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have none.
Thank you. Members, we're in discussion. Seeing none, roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Aye.
Councilmember Kia Aina?
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Aye.
Councilmember Say? Councilmember Talba remotely?
Aye.
Councilmember Tupola?
Aye.
Councilmember Wire?
Aye.
Chair Waters?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 9 ayes.
Thank you. CR 216 has been adopted and Bill 25 has passed third reading. Now moving to the top of page 19 from the Committee on Zoning, Councilmember Say.
Mr. Chair, I move that Committee Report number 201 be adopted and Bill 3, Committee Draft 2 as amended, pass third reading.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Councilmember Say for the explanation.
Relating to the incentives for the construction of affordable rental housing.
Thank you. Is there a motion to amend? Councilmember Say.
Mr. Chair, I move further to amend Bill 3, Committee Draft 2 to the posted floor draft 1.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Say for the explanation of the amendment.
The proposed floor draft 1 makes the amendment set forth in the written summary as posted on our agenda.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, I believe we have 3 testifiers registered to testify on Bill 3, starting with Ross Isokane.
Thank you, Council. This is the last item I'll be speaking on today. Just figured I'd get my money's worth. I'm in support of this bill, specifically the version promoted by Council Member Dos Santos Tam that has no restrictions or limitations on the subsidies provided for units under 300 square feet. Now, I'm not a developer, I'm not in real estate, so I really have no idea if there's a market for these units, but I just do know that we are in a crisis, and I believe to get out of this crisis, we just really need to be creative, just try solutions from all different angles, including an empty homes tax and building more. Just a quick personal anecdote. I spent a lot of years working in Silicon Valley, and when we were faced with a crisis in our business, we were instructed to find solutions by moving fast and breaking things. Now, I get it that government can't move as fast as tech companies, but $10 million doesn't feel like a lot of money just in the context of an affordable housing crisis. So I could understand if you all wanted to give some reasonable discretion to developers. In the context of this bill, if another 3 years goes by and we just haven't spent any money, I think that would be a wasted opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Isokane? Councilmember Say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sakani, for your statements. And I truly believe what you're saying is what we all say here at this council. We are all for affordable housing. The question for me was the reason why this floor draft is being proposed is the fact that the more you pay for a unit that is less than 300 square foot, if you go by unit, the less resources are available for other units. That's one. Number two, I was just concerned that I don't believe a 250 square foot unit is a unit that we would like to address in the future, whereby a lot of individuals may not want it. And it could be a size of a studio or less than a studio. But that was the reason why we did increase it from 250 to 300, and we did increase the dollar amount for the developers. In closing, I would say this. You're a businessman, I'm a businessman. If I can't get my finances done properly in trying to develop a particular apartment, I should go back to the drawing board to see how I can. And that makes sense for me. And in closing, there are other incentives that this county has given to developers. For those that are developing affordable housing under the guise of 201H or rental housing funds, did people know that they get a 10-year real property tax exemption? All of these types of incentives tries to lower the cost for our future prospective buyers or renters. And that's the reason why this draft was proposed. But I'm very happy that you have submitted your input, which is great. So in closing, the future was, I don't think we'll have a lot of local residents wanting to live in a 250 square foot unit.
And I'll quickly respond by saying, in general, thank you for your ideas of being fiscally responsible as a taxpayer. I appreciate that.
Any follow-up questions with Mr. Isokane? Seeing none. No, I want to thank you as well for taking the time. I know a lot of people are busy, and you being on the neighborhood board as chair means a lot. So thank you. Please, and I want to encourage you and the rest of your members to also participate.
Well, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Council, for having me.
Thank you. Next, we have Chloe Ishii.
Hi, council members. Good morning. My name is Chloe Ishii. I wanted to testify. I do support this bill, and I applaud you folks for all you do for affordable housing. However, I just wanted to reiterate what the previous testifier was saying about units under 300 square feet being included back onto the bill. I personally, I'm a graduate student at UH, and I would be interested in a unit of this size. It would allow me to move out of my parents' home, and I know a lot of people in my generation and upcoming generations would love to move out of their parents' home in their mid-20s, and something like this would be available to them. I think there would be interest, and folks would pay, because if you look at Ali'i, the luxury condo and more, people were paying luxury prices to live in, I think it was like 270 something square feet. They were paying luxury prices to live there. So I really truly believe generations of below me will partake and be interested in the 300 square feet units, and we should incentivize the developers to build these units for younger generations. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions for Chloe Ishii? Seeing none. Next, we have Gina Thielen.
Aloha, Chair Waters, Vice Chair Kia Aina, members of the council. My name is Gina Thielen. I'm here to testify in support of Bill 3, specifically the floor draft by Councilmember Tulba that eliminates the 300 square feet. Last time I regaled you with my cake baking analogy, so this time I think I would rather just stick with trying to address some of the concerns that I've heard raised here in this hearing, as well as from other sources. First off, one of the things that came up last time is that Bill 7 is intended for workforce housing. I believe Bill 7 will be remarkably effective at addressing the shortage of workforce housing. However, it's proven to be successful beyond that as well, which is something we should celebrate rather than be concerned about. The more successful this bill can be, the more housing is going to be provided to those that need it. The second concern that I've heard raised is the idea that people that are using housing vouchers in Bill 7 projects are somehow double dipping. This is really not the case. These programs are exclusive. They're meant to stand alone. One is to incentivize the construction of the housing. The other is to help people find places in housing. In regards to the demand, we have no need to use housing vouchers. Our project down on Kenau Street has had over 400 inquiries of people interested in renting our 25 units. It was a moral decision, not an economic decision, to accept people with housing vouchers because we feel we have an obligation to house all the people of the city and county. If I may continue just one more point, one of the concerns that I've also heard that's been brought up is the issue of the choice of construction materials affecting costs. Our group has chosen to build buildings out of concrete, while some other developers are stick framing buildings that allow them to build larger at a lower cost. So one of the things I would ask all of you is if you were looking to invest your money, your family's money, with a long-term investment, what would you rather do? Would you rather build and own a 3-story concrete walk-up with units that are 250 to 300 square feet? Or would you rather build a 4 or 5-story walk-up with units that are 350 to 400 square feet? Knowing full well that that wood frame building is going to have a much higher maintenance cost and a much shorter lifespan. In addition, you're going to have to deal with, as we solve our housing crisis, which I believe we must solve and will solve, those units that are up on the 4th and 5th floor are going to become increasingly difficult to rent. So I believe by opening up the square footage, you allow developers to be able to construct what they believe is needed, and we're the ones that are going to be taking the biggest risk to do so. And the proof is in the pudding. Our first building is fully occupied with units that are down to as small as 235 square feet. Our second building, we've got a 400-person wait list. These units are needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the testifier? Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. Aloha, good morning. Gina, I had a question. You mentioned that you said in Bill 7, this is for workforce housing. I know that this was part of the discussion last time. I'm trying to locate that in the current version of this Bill 3. Does it specify that these are for workforce units or not?
I don't believe there's any legislative requirement. I think the discussion surrounding Bill 7 when it was originally passed, which is now Ordinance 19-8, that the conversation at that time was focused on workforce housing, which is why the AMI levels are set where they are, the 80% and 100%. But no, there's no statutory requirement for that.
Okay, thank you. Just want to clarify that.
Thank you. Any follow-up questions, members? I just had a quick question. So the floor draft that I'm presenting today would allow for $40 per square foot, irrespective of whether it's over or if it's under 300 square feet. So just looking at that, if you had a 299 square foot lot, the incentive would be $11,960, just $40 less. In other words, you don't have that immediate drop off as we did in our discussions last month. For a 250 square foot unit, multiply 40 times 250, it's $10,000. So it's much more than what was contemplated last month. It's still $10,000 on top of, and help me with this, and for everybody listening and watching, for these Bill 7, Bill 1, and now Bill 3 incentives, what else does the developer get as far as incentives to build more affordable housing?
The incentives, in my opinion, the most significant incentives is the waiver of parking requirements, because it's virtually impossible to build parking to the LUO standards on these small lot developments, which is why prior to Bill 7, you didn't see any of these buildings being built. So that's the most significant one. The second most significant one is exemptions from real property tax that vary depending on your rental mix. The largest is a 10-year exemption from property tax. I would emphasize that without Bill 7, that lot would just be an empty lot or an underdeveloped lot, and in 10 years you still wouldn't get property tax, but this way at a certain point you will. And then probably the third most significant is a variety of waivers of fees, such as sewer fees and building permit fees. So there is a significant package of incentives. Those incentives were put in place under the premise that construction costs would be about $250 a square foot and interest rates would be under 4%. The problem that we've encountered, obviously, is construction costs have gone up significantly due to inflation. Our costs now are around $475 a square foot, and interest rates are significantly higher as well. So that's the reason why the change from Bill 1 to Bill 3 is needed, is the shift in the marketplace dynamic. And then in regards to your point, I would agree that the floor draft being proposed today that was put forward is much more palatable than the prior floor draft. I'm still left with the point of confusion I raised last time, which is both types of units are equally needed and should be equally supported.
I see. Is there also a waiver of setback requirements that you can build larger, closer to the street as part of the incentive package?
I believe that there are. The only one I'm aware of significantly that we use on a regular basis is certain objects are allowed to project into the setback, specifically stairwells that we've used. So you've been out to the project at 1427 Ernest Street. That stairwell is 5 feet from the property line instead of 10 feet from the property line.
Okay. And also, are you required to use an elevator?
No, but I don't believe that's a code requirement anyway, so I don't know that one is a waiver. There is another waiver which is not needing a second stairway for units under a certain size, and that does decrease costs as well.
Okay. So just to recap, no requirement for parking, in most cases, no real property taxes need to be paid, waiver of fees, which can be expensive, right? And then on top of that, $1 incentive. And the reason I bring this up, members, is because the city council oftentimes is criticized for not doing enough. But we're doing our best. We're doing our best to try to provide as many incentives as possible for developers to build housing for local families, which you're doing, and I appreciate very much. What I tried to do, members, is just try to figure out an equal or something that we can all agree on. So initially it was $15 a square foot. I floated $20 a square foot. Now it's up to $40 a square foot for units less than 3,000. Yeah, so if you build a unit, 300. If you build a unit over 300, you get $12,000. If you build it less, rather than that huge drop off, it really just depends on your square foot. So that was my attempt to try to bring us all together, see if we can agree. But thank you so much for clarifying.
Thank you.
Thank you. I notice there are other people in the audience. Does anybody else like to testify? Aloha, welcome.
Good afternoon, Chair, council members. What you're looking at here is a prime example of what a homeless person used to look. I was a homeless for 10 years. Okay, I support Bill 3 strongly. I live in the Mauna Kea Marketplace, apartment 241. I have struggled for 10 years. Lost my wife 2021. And finding a stable place for me has changed my life. My esteem level has grown. People wouldn't even think I was homeless for 10 years on the street. I believe, I urge members of council to remember that everybody needs housing. The elderly, the young, the ones that has abilities to work and make money to afford places like where I'm at. I'm so humble to where I had help from Abe Kwok that today I can look forward and build my morale and not look back anymore. When you drive to work, when you go home from work, you see people on the streets. That was me. This is me today. You know what I mean? I'm not looking backwards now. I humbly ask you guys to help out people like me, or people on the streets that's coming, you know, like to be like this. It's a miracle that I'm like this today. It's a miracle. You know, I just ask that you guys take into consideration to look into this for us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Members, any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you again for coming out today. Is there anybody else who'd like to testify on Bill 3? Aloha, welcome.
Abe Kwok with Mauna Kea Marketplace. Aloha, Council Chair Waters and Council members. Thank you for your hard work on developing more affordable housing solutions for Honolulu. You guys did a great job. Thank you. Okay, I have to compliment. So I'm here to support Bill 3, which provides subsidies for constructing more affordable units of all types and all sizes. I own Mauna Kea Marketplace, so including 39 of affordable housing units, which is $8.5 million from the City Affordable Housing Fund, and then $1.5 million from the ownership. The $10 million project delivers a valuable affordable housing to those in need for the third year. So the experience gave me the insight of these issues. I've noticed two proposed amendments regarding the unit sizes. One, reduced subsidies for units smaller than 300 square feet. I'm sorry, I'm gonna take a little longer. While the other maintains the same subsidies for all the units. Given a severe housing crisis, we need to build units with all sizes and all income levels. Removing units impacts those who need it the most, which are the young people, those who are unstable in the housing, and who are the working classes. At the Mauna Kea Marketplace, we retrofit existing buildings to create 39 units, carefully fitting all these plumbings and electrical systems in the various sizes. And for example, my unit 215 and 237, which is 260 square feet and 490 square feet, because we have to fit it into getting more fit into our budget. So both are equally very popular among the renters. We have each one of them, when they open, they have about 5 or 10 residents there, or renters there. They are ready to move in, they're applying. People prioritize having a roof over their head more than the size of a unit. As Jimmy Sousa's testimony highlights, many renters earn less incomes, urgently need the housing, folks. The current supply is insufficient to meet this demand. I remember I first involved on the Bill 7 with Marshall Hung. And the goal of the Bill 7 is really to provide more affordable housing to us. We don't have it. So the more red tape that we put it on, the developer is not gonna willing to move on. Remember, the developer, they're not a sophisticated developer. They're landlords like us. We own 5,000, 10,000 square feet. But ultimately, we are donating our land, donating 2 to 3 years of our time and money and sacrifice. And of course, in terms of that, they got a lot of incentive, but that's afterwards. So I wanted you folks to see it. So the more incentive that we can provide to these developers down the road, the more they can move forward. So I think Bill 3 is a critical path, it's a critical steps to forward for the housing crisis. I'll appreciate it. I'll take some questions. So.
Thank you. Any questions for the testifier? Councilmember Say.
Yes, Mr. Kwok. So this particular project, inception was 5 years ago,
Yes.
2019.
Yes.
How many projects have been completed that people are saying is a success?
You mean the Bill 7 or Bill 3?
7.
It's about 3.
So 3 out of 7, Mr. Chair. Am I wrong to say that I'm just trying to look at the taxpayers' money also in the grant that you folks are proposing? I was just looking at it from a point of view that if it's fixed at what Chair Waters has said, 300 square foot, that's the given, that you get the full amount. If less than that, you get a less amount. And the idea was the quality of life that I foresee in the future. If I'm wrong, you tell me. Is a 300 square foot unit a studio, considered a studio?
Okay, so I'm going to just answer on behalf of my experience. So 1990, when I came to Hawaii, I saw McCully. 2024, I see the McCully the same. So that gives you really an answer. So I'm from Hong Kong. So in 1 year of Hong Kong looked different because they're eager to build. I would say this is, I appreciate that questions, if we give a lot of incentive, but there's some critical incentive that can promote these non-savvy developers. They can build more. With some of the units that I mentioned, they're retrofits. So Bill 7 does not apply to new land sometimes. They'll also apply to buildings. There's a lot of buildings in downtown Chinatown, they're coming up right now. They require retrofits. So the owner said, you know what, I'm not gonna do commercial. Commercial is not working for us. I wanna convert it into residential. So that's probably a good decision for the current economy right now. But you have to make sense for them. You know, if it doesn't make sense for them to convert that, to get the incentive, then they will not move on. So I just wanted to give a big picture is, do we look at another 20 years, our kids is looking at, you know, the same McCully again? So please consider that to promote more affordable housing units.
Thank you. Any follow-up questions, members?
Well, Mr. Chair, just a comment, Mr. Kwok. You know, at the end of the day, what will it take? More money from the city? More from the state? We've gone through this the past 4 years in regards to a lot of these developers who have come before this council, who we all have supported on these 201H. 201H is all county exemptions and fees. It's a concern for me because in the out years, will the future council members understand the obligation that they have to make? Even this morning, I'm happy that a lot of members have introduced real property tax measures. And I just asked my staff, I hope we can do a fiscal study on it, the impact in regards to expenditure or loss of revenues versus revenues. And I'm thankful that the chair of the budget committee has allowed me to be a part of the PIG. I'm just looking at our pocketbook. I'm looking at our piggy bank as we move into the out years. And that's the concern I have. I'm not against affordable housing. I'm scared. Why I'm scared publicly? It's District 5 that's going to have the regentrification. District 5 is Makiki. District 5 is Mo'iliili. District 5 is Makali. And does the general public understand that? And that's why I thank you very much, Vice Chair, for allowing us to have our development plan meeting next week, Monday, where we invited all the neighborhood boards and neighbors to come and attend to see what their future will look like. I personally feel I've swallowed a lot and sacrificed a lot for District 5. with all of the developments that are occurring. It's not fair for me and the constituents. NIMBY, not in my backyard. Then where are you going to do it? So I do support affordable housing. But for some of us that who are in the primary urban center, we will attend our neighborhood boards. There's a big issue now on another project that was brought up at the Makiki-Tantalus Neighborhood Board in regards to Bill 7. And these are the concerns I'm voicing today on behalf of the residents, but also for the general public at large in regards to how taxpayers' monies are spent. In closing, Mr. Chair, during the budget deliberations, the administration did state for the record that the state is going to give us $5 million, and the city will put in $5 million as part of this program. Am I stand corrected, Mr. Kwok? Okay. A state with so much resources giving us $5 million, I personally feel it's a drop in the bucket. And for the members of this council, this year we'll probably have one or two more applications that's coming back to extend our 201 approval process on 2 or 3 other projects. And what Mr. Kwok is saying is true, and Gina is saying is true. It's the financing of it all. It's the financing in regards to the high interest rates. But I just ask myself, I don't think a lot of these projects will probably go on the premise that until the state addresses the insurance side now of the equation, nobody's going to qualify. And that's the kind of discussion we need here at this council with all the developers. But when the 2 or 3 of these projects come back asking for an extension, I have a very, very leery eye because I thought when we approved it, you're going to get the extension for your project. So it's not happening. So in closing, you know, I think your amendment is a great amendment as a compromise, but I was just looking at the bottom line. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions for Mr. Kwok? See none, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Clerk, do we have any other testifiers?
Mr. Chair, we have 3 persons logged on wishing to testify.
Okay, please proceed.
Good afternoon, Aloha Chair Waters, Vice Chair Aina, members of the council. Thank you for this chance to testify. My name is Ivan Ho, and I'm representing Unite Here Local 5. Local 5 represents over 10,000 working people in the hotel, food service, and healthcare industries across Hawaii. We are in a housing crisis, and this impacts our members greatly. We recently surveyed our members and found that 49% of our members are renters. 69% of our members told us that they or their children have considered leaving the state due to the high cost of living. And we found that 57% said they spend more than half of their income on housing. Our members are pushing their employers now to pay them what they are worth so that the revenue from their work from tourism stays in our communities. We support the intent of generating more affordable rental housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the testifier? Seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Ho. Our next remote testifier, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Chair, we have Donald Sakamoto.
Okay. Please proceed, Mr. Sakamoto.
Yeah, hello, Chair Waters, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Donald Sakamoto for the record. As a disabled blind individual and a strong advocate for the ADA law, we need more accessible apartments or housing for our disabled community. I recently attended a Disability Communication Access Board, and there was an architect talked about walk-up apartments, and there's not enough for the disabled. So I really hope that things can be done to help the disabled as well as our kapuna, because it's going to be very difficult in the later years for us to traverse upstairs and whatnot. So look at the AD purposes. But I like the discussion of Calvin and everybody else. Thank you.
Because he's part of the neighborhood watch. I'm just his eyes for everything, and I take care of.
Mr. Clerk, can we put everyone on mute other than the testifier? Mr. Sakamoto, do you have anything else you'd like to add? Saying
No,
none?
Chair Watchdog.
Go ahead.
I just want to make sure that that was put in so for the ADA that all the walk-up apartments and rentals have that capability for persons with disabilities. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I believe we have Chun James, followed by Angela Melody Young.
Aloha, this has been a really good conversation. I have been in the real estate sector for over 30 years, and all these conversations are really important. And we really need to have an overarching treatment to all these issues because there is just no one silver bullet. And I specifically think that it's important that we set the parameters of what we want. How do we envision Oahu to become? How do we plan for the next 7 generations? We need to ask questions. How affordable is affordable? Affordable for who? And so on and so forth. So thank you so much for all your comments. It has been really, really good to hear all of them. Mahalo.
Thank you. Next, we have Angela Melody Young.
Aloha, Angela Melody Young, chairs in strong support. So I'm getting my real estate agent license soon. I'm in a class where I've been studying hard. And my mom's an agent with Century 21. So this is a very good discussion, I think. So whereas the DBET report says homeownership rates in Hawaii are some of the lowest in the country, an estimated 56% owned homes, only 2 races have higher homeownership rates, greater than 70%, the Japanese and the Okinawans. To address homeownership rates in Hawaii, just to get people into a rental out of the parents' home by providing housing units, whether for sale or for rent, so people won't be homeless. The state and the city policymakers have focused on funding for pre-development stages to inspire action to build projects, funding for developers through tax credits, and what we always talk about, the rental housing revolving fund. And now there's a proposal for pre and post construction, which will benefit developers with least restrictive measures to set funding criteria. So although I disagree that all the energy should be focused on funding in pre-development and construction stages, I think that funding and subsidies should be provided for homeowners for down payments as much as there are provisions for developers. I will still favor this policy because it's good to inspire developers to build.
Okay, this is rental subsidies, right? You understand that, not
post-construction.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the testifier? Seeing none. Mr. Clerk, do we have any other testifiers?
Mr. Chair, that concludes the testifiers.
Okay, we're in discussion. Well, we do also have Denise Iseri Matsubara present, as well as Don Apuna. If folks have any questions, we are in discussion, members. Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. I had a couple of questions, if I could ask first Director Apuna, Takeuchi Apuna. And I'm not sure if you can answer, but I was just wondering, because a lot of the discussion we've had is based on the size of the units, and I was curious to know, are there any capacity limits on how many people can reside in a certain unit size? Is that something that we look at, or we can control or regulate?
Yes, so I believe for studios, there's a maximum of 2 occupants.
And earlier the question was, is 300 square feet considered a studio? So what is considered a studio?
I don't know the specifics, but 300 and below would be a studio for sure, yeah.
You rely on what the coordinating bill is, Bill 7, for this grant incentive.
And according to what I can recall in the bill, it's targeting the 80 to 100% AMI. So although workforce is not stated, it is targeting those households. I believe it was the grant incentive that actually brought in the lower AMI at the 60% and below AMI. And that was through Bill 1 several years ago. So, you know, to answer your question, that's the AMI that was targeted. And that is typically associated with workforce. Really, 80 to 140%.
Okay.
Can be considered the workforce.
So the discussion on, you know, I really am thankful for the testifier who came, who had been brave enough to share his experiences, but the transition housing, which is also needed, that's something different according to Bill 7 and then I guess Bill 1 that talks about the grant force and the intentions. I'm trying to figure out what the intention was when we created these measures.
Yeah, that's a really excellent question because you want to target the right populations for the programs, the housing programs that you have. So just from what I can recall off of the Bill 7, that's their target market. There are other programs like LIHTC, public housing, and other stuff for the lower income levels. But as was mentioned, we're in short supply. But I can share with you some of the LIHTC projects that have come up in town have had difficulty leasing up as well. So we do have stock in the lower income categories. So they have had, I know, some experience, you know, in trying to lease up.
I appreciate you bringing up that point because one of our concerns, I think Councilmember C brought this up with another testifier, how are those units, are they being filled? So you're saying that the LIHTC projects, we're having difficulty occupying them at this time.
I think because there's now some supply there. There was at least 2 LIHTC projects near each other. And then as you have other projects pop up, there is competition for it. But the point is we do have now, because LIHTC is the biggest program around, right? So they come up usually at 100+ units at a time.
Okay, thank you so much, Director. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Hey, just to follow up, the LIHTC is targeted at what % AMI?
So the LIHTC program means that you have to do, I think it's 40% of the project at 60% AMI or 20% of the project at 50% AMI. The rest can be market, but the reality is if you want to score well to get housing financing, most of the projects are at least 60% AMI and below, but now since there is income averaging, I don't think the state has deployed that program yet, but they will allow up to 80% AMI.
And then the city's rental housing revolving fund is targeted at what group? What AMI level?
So the city has a affordable housing fund, and that fund is also targeted at 60% AMI for 60 years. And then the state has a rental housing revolving fund as well. It goes up to 80% AMI, but it prioritizes the LIHTC projects.
Okay, and that's the state. Does the city have any projects that specifically target workforce housing from 80% to 140 AMI?
I think Bill 3 is it.
Okay, thank you. Any follow-up questions, members? Councilmember Wire.
Yeah, I just had a few, and then discussion after, but I can make questions first if you prefer. Thank you, Director. I really do appreciate all the work you're doing. You had mentioned the prior shift to include a broader range of AMI or a different category of AMI right over the course of the history of the development of the framework. And I'm just curious because when I'm reading through, it looks like 60% of AMI, but less or equal to 100%. Was that a lower or a higher rate than below 60% AMI? Or do you know what I'm asking?
I'm sorry, I don't quite follow the question. Are you looking at the Bill 3 delineation in the...
Well, I guess I'm just trying to understand because it seems like I'm hearing a couple different things, and not from you specifically, but just trying to wrap my mind around like I'm looking at versions that would give $11.25 per square foot for 60 to 100% AMI, and then would give $15 per square foot for units serving 60% and below. And so I'm just trying to wrap my mind around this broader discussion about who these units are intended for. And just kind of confusing when we talk about it in the AMI context, and then also in the context of workforce development, also in the context of gap housing, right? Because I mean, like my first job at McDonald's, Waikele, I think I was making $7 an hour. My first job after undergrad as a bank teller was like $10 an hour. Of course, when we talk about the gap group and correlate that to workforce housing, like it's a whole different group, but I'm just trying to wrap my mind around the idea of like, are we favoring or not favoring certain types of housing based on the AMI versus just recognizing that this is a very specific type of program not intended to solve our housing crisis, specifically intended for urban infill projects. And if we have a type of project that's working when historically this program hasn't worked, and if we have a type of project that's working, it just makes sense in my mind to maximize as much output as we can, instead of on one hand saying, you know, it's super hard to build housing and there's too many barriers, but then on the other hand saying, oh, let's add some barriers, right? Like, I don't know if you have any thoughts and I'm just kind of sharing what I've been processing over the course of the discussion for this bill.
So my comment to that, and I'm not real clear if there is a question in it, but my comment to that would be the delineation in the AMI breakdown for the grant incentive is a little bit misleading, because my understanding is there have been no projects at 60% AMI simply because the financing just doesn't work out without the LIHTC program. So your target market is really the 60% to 100% AMI. And if you look back at Bill 7, 80% of that project has to be affordable. 20% can actually be market. So realistically, your target is going to be that 60% and above, up to 100% AMI, because the others are just not built. And so I just think that when that bill is crafted, there may have been not a full understanding of the financing, housing financing, that it takes to actually make a project come to fruition.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Chair. I have some discussion when appropriate.
Thank you. Members, any further questions for the Director of Housing? Seeing none. Any further discussion, members? Councilmember Wire.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I don't know if that's my mic, but appreciate the work that went into the compromise. You know, I do think in looking at the FD that we put forward in reducing, putting in a $250 minimum within the $40 reduction per square foot below, I do acknowledge that, you know, compromise went into your FD and appreciate that, because I think if we're able to compromise without compromising our values, then we should, because, you know, and the reality we're facing is that we are in a housing crisis, right? And losing 50,000 folks a year, I don't want to overly scrutinize, you know, items, right? We're doing our due diligence on all the projects that come through and all the frameworks that are put in place. And like I mentioned earlier, I do think it's ironic if at any point on one hand we say it's super hard to build housing, we need to fix that, but then on the other hand we're saying, oh, let's put more restrictions on making it more complicated. I see this as a compromise given the conversation I've had with stakeholders outside of the meetings. Appreciate the expertise and the feedback, and totally open to future amendments if needed in terms of adjusting the program to meet the market demand and the needs of our residents. But given the place of your FD, fully support amending it to that, and think that at this point I am hopeful that we can just pass it out and get the program funded and rolling and continue to take feedback from those invested in providing these housing opportunities for local residents. So mahalo.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate the very healthy discussion as well. I think, you said it, we take this seriously, and our job is to serve the county, and I think none of us are here to stop people from getting into homes. We all want that, but we want to do it the right way. And for me, I want to make sure that these projects that we approve here are done properly and address the needs for housing options of all sizes, not just, when we get down to tiny square footages, which has been the majority of our discussion recently, including the ones outlined in Bill 3. And I do want to say that I hope that what we're doing, we're not setting a precedence to just build tiny rooms just for the sake of saying we're addressing the housing crisis, because we want to do it the right way. These units would make, as have been mentioned, good transition homes, but I think it would be more accurate and prudent on us to just say that housing sizing is not just to encompass individual needs, but I'd like to see us, look, as you mentioned, I think earlier, incentives to the future for family housing as well. Because when we talk about the workforce housing, which has been talked about, we're not just talking about one person. Most times they come with a couple or a family. So I myself come from this background with a family. So I think as we move forward, the projects that we're looking at, that we're approving, we keep that in mind as well. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilmember Dos Santos Tam, followed by Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you, Chair. And I appreciate the opportunity to have a frank discussion on this bill. And I think in the spirit of having a frank discussion, I do want to share my frank and honest reaction to the various proposals here. We were here a month ago, and we had the opportunity to discuss multiple different versions. And I still remain most favorable to the version put forward by Councilmember Tolba, which eliminates the thresholds and restrictions here. As a fallback, my preference would be Councilmember Wyer's version, because I think that really is, the compromise between the four of us that were in support of the last meeting of providing as much incentive as possible, and those who wanted to put conditions on. I think to move from the 250 square foot threshold to a 300 square foot threshold is not fully a compromise here. And part of why I strongly believe that is that I really do believe that we need to be a pro-housing council. And I hear everybody saying, we want to build more housing, we want to make sure that we're addressing this crisis, but we are in a crisis. And I really think that we need to be willing to say yes. Yes to housing, not yes but, not yes if and only it meets criteria X, Y, and Z. Because if we start drawing arbitrary lines in the sand here, we're going to start drawing arbitrary lines in other areas. And I say that these are arbitrary because in the city's own portfolio, we have units smaller than 300 square feet. We spend taxpayer money on them. We renovate them. We try our best with DCS and DLM to get people into these units. And so it feels a little arbitrary to me that we even have this discussion in the first place, where we're obsessing about whether we give $12,000 or $11,960 to a 299 square foot unit. I think we also need to think about why we need Bill 7 in the first place, why we needed it when we passed it 4 years ago. It was meant to target the workforce category, as Denise mentioned, because we've left them behind. We've approved tens of thousands of tract homes out in West Oahu, which serve a huge need. We've approved, HCDA's approved luxury towers in Kaka'ako. We ourselves have reviewed 218H projects targeted at a much lower AMI level, but there are people in the middle, our workforce. Ivan brought up his members who are working their butts off at our hotels and still can't find a place to live. We need to have housing for them as well. I take the bus often. I go to all kinds of community events. In the past week, we talk about who these units are for. It's not perfect for everybody, but there are people for whom they're going to be perfect. This past week, I talked to my friend Peter. He's working his butt off on a little startup that he's trying to do. He gave up his expensive apartment and now rents a bunk at the youth hostel in Waikiki because he's working for 16 hours a day and literally just needs a place to crash. And it's cheaper to do that than to pay his rent. I think about Lisa, who's my former constituent, and she's my former constituent because she was evicted from her house right up the road here on the slopes of Punch Bowl. And she is now in a homeless shelter out in West Oahu and needs somewhere to live. And her kids still go to school in town. She would take the deal, I have no doubt, to live in a place that's safe, has a roof over her head, and is here in town. We have relegated a lot of our folks to living in older, dated units from the 60s and 70s because we haven't built a new inventory that they can call their own. And we have with us testifiers who now live in those kinds of new units that have been created because of Bill 7. We also created Bill 7 to give out these waivers on density, on height, on parking, on setbacks, because the barriers that we've set up to building apartments in the first place are so cumbersome. And I think it's time that we start looking at how we can right the ship in that way and have a policy where we let people build apartments in apartment zones that meet a broad range of needs that are gonna be affordable to local people and let people sleep in a comfortable bed at night and feel safe with all of their things. And we have this opportunity now with the $10 million that are in the fund, $5 million from the city, $5 million from the state, of which only $140,000 has been utilized, 1.4%. This money is sitting in a fund somewhere doing nothing while we have a housing crisis. People are out there looking for a place to live. I know we're here on the council to use taxpayer money carefully, but we need to use it and not just hold tight, you know, in our fists and hold on to it and dole it out only when it meets, you know, the exact criteria that we all want. If we hold tight to it and keep it locked up behind barrier after barrier, we are not doing our job of helping people. We're not trying our best, and we're certainly not, you know, being pro-housing in that way. I think that we have the opportunity now to say, look, we have this $10 million fund, let's get it out the door, let's see what we can do, and if I'm proven wrong and there's a proliferation of tiny little units everywhere, and we have tens and tens of thousands of them, let's revisit it. But again, there's $10 million in this fund. If every single dollar of that were used, we'd get 833 and a third units. This is not gonna cause a huge crisis here, but you know what it's gonna do? It's gonna get 833 families a place to live. And I say we get this done and get it out the door and not put arbitrary barriers on the way. And so I think it would be worthwhile to entertain the other versions. I appreciated what you did, Chair, in the last meeting to go through all of those different versions, because I think we need to use our votes and voices to help make a difference. And I think that the best way we can do that is with Councilmember Tole's version. I still maintain that today, as I did last month, and I think it's worthwhile to have that discussion. So thank you.
Thank you. Very well taken. Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, and thank you everyone for your thoughts. And I apologize for not being here for this lively discussion last month, but I'm happy we're still having it. And I hope that we can pass out something today. I think, you know, in addition to what was just said by Councilmember Dos Santos Tam, is I really feel like on top of the reason why we needed Bill 7 or these projects was also because we had empty lots and people who had land that they couldn't develop, that we were trying to incentivize people to help us out with this crisis that we're trying to address. So aside from the need for workforce housing, we were trying to help people that were sitting on vacant land that could potentially help. And so I think if the program was so awesome, we'd just be popping these projects out, but we're not. And so that means that we need to do something to really make it start to flow better. And I agree that we should nickel and dime people down to are very specific standards in order for them to be a part of this. I will say, in addition to what Councilmember Dos Santos Tam said about our existing inventory, is that one of the testifiers brought it up that even at A'ali'i, which is on Queen Street, that those units are under 300 square feet. I've been in one of them, and that it's marketable, people bought it, they live in it, and we have various other units where we've shown that. And some of them are actually like 280, 290, so they're not all significantly under the 300, but we know that that it can happen. And I think that to Gina's point is there's a huge difference for a developer that's on a 5,000 square foot lot that's trying to do a 3-story with no elevator and adhere to these standards. And then once the 300 requirement comes in, boom, you're at a 4-story, you got an elevator, now we're rising costs, and that just depletes the whole reason or the whole incentive for somebody to participate in this project or Bill 7 type projects. So, I do also think that the minimum standard for International Building Code is 124 square feet, which we're well over that. And I think that we are a council that's pro-housing. And so I think to Councilmember Wire's point is, the less restrictions, the less burdens that we can put on developers, the more we can pop out these units. We not only have a housing crisis, we have homelessness on the rise, and we have people leaving Hawaii. So I hope that we can do something that's going to significantly impact this. And I think that we should take into consideration that not a lot of people even want to deal with Bill 7 projects. So those who are, thank you. And we hope to help more in any way that we can. And I do support Councilmember Tolba's version of the bill, the CD, and I hope that we can do something that will bring into light the fact that it's already difficult and we want to make sure that we're helping in any way possible.
Thank you. I have a question for Director Apuna.
Mr. Chair, may I say a few words?
Yes, in a minute. I have a quick question for Director Apuna. So we're talking about Bill 7 projects. How many projects are sitting in your department? How many in the hopper, and how many have been approved?
I think there's been about 8, either 8 or 11, I forgot. And then there's
8 or 11 that have been approved?
Approved.
Okay, they got their building permits.
Yes.
Okay.
And then roughly 40. I'm sorry, I should have brought those stats, but around 40 pending.
40 pending. And most of these applications were done before we started to consider Bill 3 and adding on more incentives to what has already been passed by this council, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Any follow-up questions with Director Apuna? Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you, Chair. That's a good question. I guess my question is, how many are fully completed, not just have their permits?
I think 2 to 3 are fully completed.
And what year did the Bill 7 project start, just for the general public's information?
I think 2018.
Okay.
Or 19.
Thank you for the background. Thank you, Chair.
No, good points. I mean, there's a lot of arguments being made that we're holding these back. And I don't think the council is holding these back. I mean, and nothing against TPP. I've had conversations with you about these, and then oftentimes the developers are not submitting permit applications that, are up to snuff, right? Is that accurate? Is that why there's still 40 pending?
Partially, yes. I mean, we expedite all the Bill 7 projects, I think, since late last year. That was the directive for our staff. So I don't think that DPP itself is holding up. We're trying to make sure that those projects are reviewed quickly and get back to applicants to address comments. Yeah.
Okay. Councilmember Say, followed by Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to correct a statement made. We are not denying the developer any project or any building unit. The differential is just in the square footage. Why 300 square foot? Simply put, I don't believe it's just going to be a single individual. It's going to be a married couple with a child. And that would be much more accommodating for a family of 3 versus one individual. That's the whole point. We're not denying the developer not to build. If he wants to build or she wants to build something less than 300, they can. But the dollar amount is going to be a little lower than what the 300 plus and above. That's all I'm saying. Quality of life. From a studio or a 250 square foot to 300, maybe you can accommodate a couple, a married couple. What's wrong with that? But I think for 250 and below or 300 and below, it might be awfully difficult. And that's just my personal feelings. Why? I'm not looking out for all of us, but the future generations. If they're going to be stuck, if that's going to be their place of living. So I bring this up because it is not denying the developer the right not to build. He can build. But anything below 300, you have a differential in the grant that is proposed. Ms. Matsubara, your thoughts, what I just said?
Well, sorry, Chair and council members, not so much on your thoughts, but because there's been so much discussion about how long it's been taking, just for everyone's memory, to refresh everyone's memory, I was educated on this. Part of the long delays for the reason why projects are stuck in the permit application, soon as Bill 7 took effect, I think it was in 2019, shortly after that, the Board of Water Supply changed its rules. So all the plans that were being made had to now be redone. And then secondly, to make projects feasible, the interest rates are double what it was before. So projects are having difficulty getting financing. So that's not a factor of the program or DPP. These are just some circumstances, that happened with other rules and other things outside of the program itself. So this is a really good program, but there are other circumstances that have affected the program, which is why things have been delayed. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that.
Thank you. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam. Actually, Councilmember Tolba has not weighed in yet on this. Do you mind, since he hasn't spoken, Councilmember Tolba, then Councilmember Dos Santos Tam? Thank you. And I apologize. I didn't see your hand up there.
No problem. Thank you, Chair. Really appreciate the discussion. And I echo the comments from Councilmember Tupola as well, Councilmember Dos Santos Tam. Look, we've been talking, I've been talking to DCS on how we can help folks struggling in my district in finding enough bed spaces and affordable housing to keep people off the streets or living in their cars. Director Crockett, I'm taking his quote, mentioned that we need beds of many flavors. Pretty sure that if you're applies, we need affordable housing units in case, we need more units available to our service providers to offer to struggling families and individuals and to our Section 8 residents. I know there's concern about sizes of units, and I know the market is also playing a role. And developers will build units they believe the rental market will attract. So, Chair, I support the efforts of our council to move this across the finish line so we can get more units up for local to afford housing units. And to me, that's quality of life. People just want a roof over their heads. So thank you for letting me make comments.
No, I appreciate your comments very much. Thank you. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
Thank you. So, I think we've talked a lot about Bill 7 overall, but I wanted to go back to some questions about the grants program itself. This might be for Director Apuna. Could you talk about exactly where the money comes from and where the money sits for this? I recall that in FY24, so last year's budget, we dedicated some money to it, and then in this year's budget, FY25, there's a line item in DPP's budget for it.
Yes, that's correct. So the money is with DPP in our general fund, and it was last year as well as the year prior. So
in those FY23, 24, and 25, we've only given out 147,000 of it. Where'd the other 4.98 million go?
I believe it lapsed that first year, and so we were reappropriated. I think 5 million the next year, and so on.
The funds from 23 lapsed. The funds from 24, except for the 147,000 that went to Derek Locke, lapsed. Mm-hmm. This coming year, what happens if none of it gets out the door?
It will lapse as well.
And so I understand that the state is giving us $5 million to match.
Right.
Are we at all concerned that if we can't get this money out, the state's going to say, well, county, we tried, we gave you money, you didn't use it all. Like, why would we continue to give you money?
Yes, that's a concern.
Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you so much, Chair. Yeah, thank you, Director. Just a one additional question. So I do think obviously there's lots of other variables, right, in play, the department, the funding, the financing. But typically in order for us to continue, even the pace where we're at, are you in favor of taking off the requirement of the square footage so that these projects can kind of stay at the same pace, which, you know, we'd like it to go faster, but I'm always concerned that once we change the law, we change variables, that it also changes the output.
As far as the financing, I don't think I can speak so much to financing. That's not what that's not within our.
Understood.
But I think just generally, because of the higher interest rates that Director of Housing had mentioned, you know, I think there needs to be some way to offset and allow these developers to complete their projects and to move them forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you. I have a question for Director Isari Matsubara, please. Hi, Director. Thank you very much for your comments last time. I just had a clarification question. You mentioned that the Bill 7 program was good and that there may not, does that mean we may not need to make any further amendments to the program itself?
Well, I think like any good housing program, it evolves over time. So if we're talking about Bill 7, I would say let the projects in the pipeline get through that pipeline first, because it's been so tough with all the other changes that have occurred around the program. So I would say let those projects get through. You've got maybe about a dozen projects that are going and are close. One is just waiting for their final certificate of occupancy. Another one is real close. So you've got all these projects lined up. I would say let's not address those amendments at this time until those projects get through.
So kill the bill?
Kill Bill 7?
No, this bill.
I think that's totally a council's decision, but I would want to say, since you're so close to the finish line and some of these projects are waiting for something to happen so that they can file for their claim against the grant incentive, I think the council has done a lot of work. You're so close to the finish line, and I would echo what Councilmember Talbot said to support it getting across the finish line at this point.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
I think last set of questions for me. This might be for Director Apuna if she knows, maybe Director Isari Matsubara. You know, the Bill 7 program has a number of conditions attached to it. There's a maximum number of units that can be done on a specific parcel under this program. Could you talk with us about how that's calculated? That might be a EPP question.
Under Bill 7,
Under the
all I
current-
can tell you it's 60 feet high and 100 units. It has a FAR of 4. So that's a calculation according to the bill.
Yeah, I think there's a specific calculation, and maybe someone at EPP can talk about that.
I don't remember the specifics, I'm sorry.
If I recall correctly, it's the maximum FAR allowed, so that's 4.0, times the square footage, divided by 800, which effectively is a calculation of 1 unit per 200 square feet is the maximum, if you sort of distill the math down. And so under the Bill 7 program, there's already a floor, no pun intended, on the unit size at 200, because you can't do a maximum, you can't do more units than that per lot. Does that sound correct?
It does sound correct.
Okay. So there's already a cap at 200. And so this perhaps just is an overall rhetorical point of, why are we then setting a threshold higher than that when it's already baked into the law? But that's not a question for you, so thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion, members? Okay, seeing none, there is a motion on the floor. To amend to the CD2 proposed FD1 by me, that's pending. So, I mean, I think there probably be a motion to further amend, but can we start with this motion first? See where that goes?
Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Say.
I apologize. Being the chair of the zoning committee, the whole intent, yes, was to make a quality of life decision in regards to what we have presently on the books. If the membership feels that it's going to be 200 square foot for all units, I'm not going to buy in, which is the present law. That is not a quality of life issue. And how many people out there will want to live in a 200 square foot? Yeah, maybe an individual, but with a couple, a working, couple. Are we looking at the future also? If you start off with 300 square foot, a husband and wife with a child maybe. All I'm saying, if you guys want 200, the way it is right now, we can vote on it. I'm not ashamed, but I'll vote no. If you want to open it up, who is going to follow up? What department is going to follow up on the square footage of these units? DPP, yes. They're inspectors, yes. I bring this up primarily because we in this county are having a difficult time whereby we pass laws that are not being enforced, Mr. Chair. That's just my personal, and I apologize to the city and county workers who are doing a damn good job with what they have. This particular measure was just to try to address quality of life, a couple with a child, with a 300 plus unit, square foot unit. I said for the record, I am not denying the developer not to build something that they're saying is now we find out is 200. They could go up to 299 and then get a grant. How much more of the grant do you folks want to share with the developer? The question is the grant after the fact, project is completed. Is that a bonus? Is that part of their commission? Is that part of their profitability? I don't know. And like I stated earlier, I'm here to support the people of this county of Oahu in regards to preserving as much as we can in real property tax. Next, the other question would be of the projects that are in the pipeline, would Director Alpano know what is the square footage for each of these units, the FAR? Is Director here?
I believe she stepped out of the room.
Would anyone know what is the square footage of these units in these 14 projects that are in the pipeline, almost complete?
There's 40 in the pipeline.
40. I thought I heard 14.
Chair, she's right here.
Oh, there she is.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that there was a report submitted to the chair. You had inquired about the square footage, and then a list was sent in and submitted by DPP. But I know Don is here now.
Could you answer that question? How many units are in the 200 square foot category of these 40 projects in the queue or in the pipeline?
Again, I forget the specifics, but there were a number under the 300 that are in process or approved. Yeah, okay. A minority of units.
Okay. So that floor does not even exist because their developers are doing more. Okay, I don't have anything else to say at this point, but the discussion has been excellent.
Thank you. So members, just real quick, the compromise version that I'm proposing raises it up from what was initially proposed in Bill 3 from $15,000, excuse me, $4,000 up to $10,000 per unit, from 4,000 to 10,000. And really what we're squabbling over here, this is for a 250 square foot unit. You're still gonna get the developer gets $10,000 cash on top of free property taxes, on top of a bunch of waivers of fees. And I understand the whole problem, but we're squabbling over $2,000. But my intent really is to try to get this done today, guys. If this doesn't pass the amendment, it may not get done today.
Mr.
Right?
Chair.
Because there's probably gonna be, I'm not done. There's probably gonna be a motion to, wait, let me finish. There's probably gonna be a motion to add Councilmember Talba's on there. It has to be hand carried, so it needs 6 votes. Yeah, I didn't agendize it. It's not on the calendar. You need to make a motion and you have to waive the Rule 48 to 48-hour requirement. So why don't we do this? Let's vote on this, take a vote, whichever way it goes, and then if you want to make your motion for Augie Talbas, go ahead. Yeah, I think there's been enough discussion at this point. Let's just take the vote, and then if there's another motion, there's another motion. It's now 1 o'clock. We've been debating this for now over an hour. Yeah, I think there's been plenty discussion. So, roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Councilmember Cordero?
No.
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
No.
Councilmember Kia Aina?
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Aye.
Councilmember Say? Councilmember Talba by video conference? Excuse me, Councilmember Talba?
No.
No. Councilmember Tupola?
No.
Councilmember Wire?
Aye.
Chair Waters?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 5 ayes, 4 noes.
Thank you. So Bill 3 CD2 has been amended to a posted FD1. Now, is there a further motion or further discussion? Saying none, then we're voting on the Bill 3, FD1.
Could I have some discussion?
Yes, absolutely.
So just to note, so I mean, the vote we just took was to amend it.
Just the amendment.
Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Sure. And honestly, I like what you said. I mean, it's a compromise, but as long as we're not compromising our core beliefs, right? Which I think this is what this does. So I appreciate what you said. But now we're on the Bill 3 FD1. And I'm assuming at this point there is no motion. We're always open to opening this up later. As Denise Isari Matsubara said, it evolves. Let's see if this works. And I hope it does. It's still $10,000 for a 250 square foot studio. Yeah. And as Councilmember Dos Santos Tam pointed out, we got to get these projects moving, get it out. We don't want to delay this anymore if at all possible. Councilmember Dos Santos Tam.
So Chair, to that point, I agree, and I appreciate your willingness to revisit this later. As I asked the directors, if we're not able to get this money out, if it's just sitting in some bank account on some city server somewhere, and it's not getting out to help the people, we need to do what we can as a council to be a pro-housing council. I really do believe we need to be a pro-housing council. To be willing to revisit this later, and I think that after FY25 finishes, I think there's probably an opportunity to revisit this. Again, we are in a housing crisis. There's a lot of other things that we as a council can be doing and should be doing, and I hope that with today's moving forward of Bill 3, in some way, shape, or form, paired with all the other things that we need to be doing on housing, that we'll be able to look back and say we made a difference. And so I do appreciate your sentiments here.
Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to, I know I've been quiet this whole time and haven't really weighed in as well. But as you know, from the very beginning, I was able to vote consistently for the policy preference that I had. And I do want to state that this council has and continues to be pro-housing. I've seen many different iterations of a city council for our city here. And so I'm proud to be a part of a pro-housing council. So what we are doing here isn't saying that we are pro-housing or anti-housing or restricting housing. It's just truly our policy preference as each individual council members and each vote. And that's what I just wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, roll call, Mr. Clerk.
Councilmember Cordero?
Reservations?
Councilmember Dos Santos Tam?
Reservations.
Councilmember Kia Aina?
Aye.
Councilmember Okimoto?
Aye.
Councilmember Say? Councilmember Talba remotely?
Or reservations.
Councilmember Tupola?
Reservations.
Councilmember Wire?
Aye.
Chair Waters?
Aye.
Mr. Chair, there are 9 ayes.
Thank you, members. CR 201 has been adopted. And Bill 3 CD2 FD1 has passed third reading. We made it through. Members, it's now 1:05. Shall we take a 1-hour break for lunch?
Yes.
1-hour break? Okay. Let's come back at 2:05, but let's try to be on time. 2:05, members. Thank you.